On the agenda this evening, we have an executive session, which we will adjourn and then go into open session. Is that echo normal?
We're not hearing it.
We're not getting it on our end.
Oh. It's just me, no problem. Okay, in open session, have the Pledge of Allegiance, public service announcements, moment of silence. At 6:35, we have a public hearing for Sale Energy LLC for an amended license for gas tanks with flammable materials located 59 Technology Park Road, Stuart. We have department reports, facilities, and town administrator. We have several action items, consideration and possible action on the confirmation of appointment of Jonathan Miller as Deputy Chief of the Sturbridge Fire Department, consideration and possible action on the appointment and confirmation of David Hoyt as a firefighter / EMT with the Sturbridge Fire Department, consideration and possible action on a revised letter of resignation from Alexandra McConnon, consideration and possible action on a memorandum of agreement between the Sturbridge Police Association and the town of Sturbridge, providing for the terms and conditions of a revised collective bargaining agreement. Consideration and possible action on the use of Chapter 90 funds for the cost location of a utility pole to accommodate the Grand Trunk Improvement Project. Consideration and possible action on the allocation of potential Chapter 90 funds to the improvements to Cedar Pond Road. Consideration and possible action on the resignation of the food service coordinator at the Council on Aging. Consideration and possible action on the resignation of custodian Sean Lands. Consideration and possible action on the use of proprietary products for the resurfacing of the apparatus floor at the public safety complex. Consideration and possible action on the special one-day liquor license request from Greater Good Brewing Company. Consideration and possible action on the 2021 special town meeting warrants. Consideration and possible action on a hawker and peddler license for Heather Hamilton. Old business, new business, correspondence, approval of minutes of September 13th, September 20th, citizens forum, and then we shall adjourn. Somebody want to make the motion for executive session? Chase?
Yep, executive session per MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21(3), to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares.
So declared. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ian, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chase?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Yes.
Jamie? And I vote yes. Okay, Jeff?
Yep, let me turn off the stuff here.
This conference.
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for me. Okay, first on the agenda, we have public service announcements. Jamie, do you have any?
No, thanks, Mary.
Mary?
Yep, I have a couple of fun announcements. I'm glad we have a full house tonight. There's a couple road races that I want to announce. The Sturbridge Rotary Club is doing a Trek Sturbridge Halloween event, and it's on the morning of Halloween, so that's Sunday morning. It's going to take off from the old Sturbridge Village Education Center. You can register that day at 8 in the morning, or you can go on RaceWire. I think if you Google Rotary Club Halloween, it'll pop up. At 9 o'clock, it's a free event for kids, K through 6th grade, a costume parade, games, a Halloween hunt. At 9:30, there's a 1-mile race through the OSV Trail for preteens. That's $15. And then at 10 o'clock, there's a 5K, which is roughly like 3.1 miles, trail race. You can walk it or you can run it. And the first 150 people get the T-shirt, which they're very cute. And the posters are all around town. So I just wanted to announce that. And then in November, the Special Events Committee is, in conjunction with the Senior Center, is sponsoring a Home of the Brave 5K. This will be the third year it's held. It benefits the Sturbridge Veterans Assistance Fund, so it's going to benefit Sturbridge veterans right in town this year. It's going to take place Saturday, November 13th, which is the Saturday after Veterans Day. And you can register for that one on Lightbox registration, and those flyers are everywhere as well. And there's different prices, $25, $20 for veterans, $15 if you don't want a T-shirt. So two fun events, one on Halloween and one on Saturday, November 13th. So,
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Yeah.
Chase, do you have any?
I have none, thank you.
Ian?
I do not.
No, and neither do I. Could we please have a moment of silence for all those affected by COVID? Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a few minutes before 6:35.
Do you want to do the MOU for the PD while you're waiting?
Yeah, we could. That's item D. Okay, does anybody want to make a motion then?
Certainly. I will move to approve the memorandum of agreement between the Sturbridge Police Association and the town of Sturbridge,
Okay.
as discussed in executive session.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, we still have 2 minutes. We can
Do you want
We
to?
can do Alex's letter.
Okay. That's C.
Let's see. Yeah, could you read it, Jeff? Mine are out of order.
Okay. Let me find it. Okay. Ms. McConnon has updated her letter of resignation, changing her date of resignation from October 6th to Friday, October 8th. So she's asked, at the last meeting, you accepted her resignation effective October 6th. So, asking for an updated acceptance, please.
Okay, somebody want to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to accept the revised letter of resignation.
I'll second that.
with regret.
Okay, any
With regret.
discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, it's 6:35. Chase, do you have the legal ad?
I do. The Town of Sturbridge Board of Selectmen, in accordance with MGL Chapter 148, Section 13, hereby give notice that a public hearing will be held on Monday, October 4th, 2021, at 6:35 PM for the application of Sail Energy LLC for an amended license for gas tanks with flammable materials located at 59 Technology Park Road, Sturbridge, Mass. 01566. The public hearing will take place at the Town Hall, second floor, Veterans Memorial Hall, located at 308 Main Street, Sturbridge, Mass. 01566.
Okay, Jeff, you want to explain this?
Yeah, is there someone here from Sail Pro? Joe, come on up. Pioneer Energy, Sail Energy has had a variety, has had a variety of storage permits through the town for many years, and of different quantities and different amounts. And as they work to install the new propane tanks, with the fire inspector, we kind of evaluated how many approvals they had, how many different permits they had. And although they're permitted for all their installed storage, we didn't have approvals for their portable storage or their trucks. So given that they have roughly half a dozen different licenses over the years, we took this opportunity to consolidate all the licenses into one master license or one master permit that includes all the potential inactive storage tanks on the site. So Joe, like your last name?
Grigorowskis.
Grigorowskis is here this evening representing Sail Energy.
Okay, does anybody on the board have questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question, Madam Chair. So 280 gallons that's just all of the tanks on property that you have every other, there's no increase in the amount of gallons?
Right, it's potentially what we could have if we store all our trucks or have empty tanks there.
Okay. So how often do you have, what's your normal capacity?
We normally keep it just about 100,000. We're never full.
Okay. That was it, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, it is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who has a question?
No.
No, Mary.
Okay, hearing no questions, somebody want to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, does somebody want to make a motion on the license?
I'll make a motion to approve the license for Sail Energy LLC.
I'll second it.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have department reports, facilities.
Good
Good
evening.
evening, Robin.
Hi, Mary. Hi, all. I submitted my department report for facilities last week in your packets. We've had a pretty successful year with operating services and operations of the buildings. Staffing concerns or issues are addressed in the memo. This year, we hope to apply for a Maya grant to implement facilities management software, which will hopefully track all of our assets, management, and maintenance. So particularly as we look on bringing new projects or larger buildings online, they'll be ready to go into the new asset management software. Capital projects wise, last year facilities submitted $925,000 for 17 requests of capital projects. Of those 17 requests, 7 were funded for a value of $216,000, which shows that we are working diligently during the year to maintain resources and eliminate new capital issues, but we're still playing catch up with the creation of the department only a couple of years ago. A couple of the projects have completed this year are pointing out some of the deficiencies in some of our building stock, and that as things age, parts are harder to find outside of even COVID deliveries that nothing can arrive on. So some of the projects for this year's capital we've pushed back to the spring, hoping that some of the construction prices drop and things become more available so that we don't go over budget. Couple of special projects to mention this year. We had the surplus auction that was very, very successful using municipal. Hopefully departments can continue to eliminate surplus and bring back some of the money to the town by using municipal in the future. And although that was successful, we did have an unsuccessful RFP for 8 Brookfield Road. There were no interest in purchase or lease of that property, putting us in a position to look at what our options are in the future. Additionally, there's several items on the special town meeting warrant for October that I've been part of, so we'll be here. If you have any questions on that later. Any questions?
Can I say something,
Yeah.
Mary?
Yes, go
I
ahead,
just
Jeff.
want to thank Robin. Through COVID, she's kind of managed the on-site and the facility kind of cleaning and COVID response for us from an employee and building perspective. So she did a great job. And then getting a handle on a lot of the maintenance issues and capital planning, she's done a wonderful job for us.
Okay, thank you, Robin.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
Have a great night.
Oh, I'm here for a while.
Oh, you're staying?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the floor.
Okay. Well, have a great night with us.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, next we have town administrators report. Jeff?
Yes, thank you. The biggest item on my report is the special town meeting coming up on October 28th. At the last meeting, we discussed whether or not the school requires masks for the town meeting. That is actually will be up to the board if you want to require those in the school. Their mandate does not extend to those kind of meetings. So if the board wants to require masks during the town meeting, then the board can make that decision. Also, there'll be some substantial setup for the meeting, and then we'll have to reset both the auditorium and the cafeteria after town meeting to get them ready for the students for the next day. So it'll be, pre-COVID, post-COVID type stuff throughout the evening. But other than that, we are beginning to see marijuana revenue from the retailers. We got a quarterly statement of about $53,000. That's on the sales tax. So it's matched by the 3% impact fee. So quarterly, about $100,000
Great.
so far. That covered the summertime, the late summer when Heal just opened. So with a full quarter of operation, we'll see how that goes with both fully operational. But other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions from the board? Mary?
I don't have a question, but I'm wondering if this is an appropriate time to entertain a motion with respect to the town meeting update that Jeff provided. I recall at the last meeting, I was encouraging a mask requirement in the office buildings. It was declined on a 2-2 vote, but I remember at the time, there were some select people that said at the next big meeting that they may support it. And at that point, I think it was Jeff or you, Mary, that said, well, with the schools, we'll have to wear a mask anyway, and that's what we were under the impression that we did. Now that it is up to us, I'm going to make a motion that we require masks at the special town meeting on October 28th.
I'll second that motion.
Jamie, did you second that?
I did, sorry. My mask.
Okay, discussion?
I'm probably going to vote against this just for like tonight's room, strongly recommend them, give people the option. If someone's concerned about COVID, absolutely wear a mask. I encourage it. But, others that are vaccinated and feel comfortable, then I have no problem with them not wearing one.
Can I respond to Chase?
Mary?
Obviously, reasonable minds are going to differ on this. However, it is in the school. I think we also have to respect the school. The school does have a mask requirement all day long, and for us to go in with 200 or 300 people, granted we're going to clean it after, and not even respect the school's position, who does have a mask all day long, I think isn't a reasonable position. And I also feel we've got a lot of big items on this special town meeting, including the senior center. And I assume there will be a number of seniors that want to attend. They are considered high risk. And I don't think it's really imposing on people to require them for the 2 or 3 hours, absent a medical condition to the contrary, to wear a mask. Because I think it's really going to dissuade, and that's a shame, people from attending. It would be one thing if people could vote remotely and submit how they feel from a remote, but they can't. It's unlike an election where we have early voting and whatnot. They have to be at that town meeting. And to respect the school and to respect those who are nervous about it, I don't think it's a big inconvenience to require them, all of us, to wear it. absent a medical condition that prohibits it.
Okay. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, if I may, I would just say it's the most conservative course. Just an ounce of prevention goes a long way in this aspect, and when we're going to have a lot of seniors in what could be a relatively dense population, just seems to be the most conservative course. So.
Okay, I know at the planning board meeting last week, they required masks. However, they all took them off when they spoke. So that meeting went well. And I'm not too strong one way or the other, but I suppose for the sake of caution and for the people who are nervous, I think I'll go along with Mary's motion. Ian?
I feel the same way. I want to just make sure that everybody can come and be comfortable, so.
Okay, so all those in favor of Mary's motion? All those opposed? Okay, 4-1. Anything else, Mary, on that?
No, thank you.
Okay, next we move on to the action items. The first one, A, consideration and possible action on the confirmation of appointment of Jonathan Miller as Deputy Chief of the Sturbridge Fire Department. Before I turn this over to Jeff, I just want to say that that is all we're discussing, is Jeff's Jeff's recommendation for the appointment. We're not discussing any process or anything. It is the board's duty to either go along with the recommendation by the appointing authority, which is Jeff, or to not go along with it. Also, the fact, this is a public meeting. People have a right to be there and to listen. It's not a public hearing, so we won't be taking comments from the audience. Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would appreciate the board giving me a couple of weeks to see if we could come to a resolution with the firefighters union on this particular topic. We have not been able to, and the board granted me the 2 weeks. So we are here this evening to act on the appointment request. You did receive a letter today from the union. It's on the podium and it was emailed out to you earlier today. And that's what we have.
Okay, so Jeff, you're putting Jonathan Miller forward then as your appointment for Deputy Fire Chief, correct?
I am.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion to approve or disapprove that?
I will make a motion to approve the appointing authority's recommendation that we confirm the appointment of Jonathan Miller as Deputy Fire Chief for the Sturbridge Fire Department.
Okay, is there a second?
92,000, sorry.
Any discussion?
Well, you have to get a second. Who seconded it?
Nobody yet.
Yeah, Mary, you got to get a second before discussion.
Oh, I thought I heard somebody say second.
I'll second Jamie's motion.
Okay, any discussion?
I have a little bit.
Mary?
Yeah. So we typically do ask some questions, so I don't see this appointment as being any differently. So Chief, I know we spoke, and I just want to make sure that you are up for the challenge, and that's what I said, a couple of weeks ago. Your resume does speak for itself. You are very qualified. You're the chief's choice, and I want to point out that this is a management position, and it's important that second in command has a positive working relationship with the chief. That's utmost important because it is a management position. It's not a union position. And I just want to hear from you in terms of, it's very obvious this is a little bit different than a lot of appointments that we have. We do have a lot of people in the audience that have concerns about this appointment. So I just want to hear from you in terms of, I spoke with the chief and he wants very much to bring the department together. And when I spoke, I said, I think it's very important that you are on the same page with respect to the chief's attitude, and I do believe his sincerity on that, and I just want to hear a little bit from you with respect to how you're going to come into the fire department.
Certainly. So yes, I am up to the challenge. I look forward to it. I look forward to serving under the chief, to working with the department, with the town, and just moving forward.
Okay, and how about you, Chief? You're obviously happy with the appointment?
Yes.
Okay. Mary, I know this isn't a public hearing, but when we're given information, I just do want to touch upon something.
Wait a minute,
I
Mary.
don't think, I can't be stifled, because this is part of the appointment process, so let me just say this.
Yes, no,
In terms
Mary,
of-
Mary,
But I don't think.
could I ask?
It's not going to be, I think it's going to be beneficial, and this is part of how we make a confirmation. I don't think that we can be told, you can't ask this question, or you can't ask that question, and I'm just.
Mary, I'm not saying that. I was just going to ask you what it is you're going to read.
I'm not going to read anything. I read the letter from the Union Stuart, and I'm just going to respond to it before I vote in the affirmative, okay? I am a big believer in process. I am. However, in this instant, it's a management decision. And I know they were asking for an independent assessment center to undergo the whole review, process of hiring, yes. But, you know, this is, in my opinion, after the fact. There was no discussion before the Board of Selectmen with any concerns with how the process was being undertaken by our chief of police or our town administrator. Nobody, hold on, I've got the floor. I didn't have anything in writing about a problem prior to the selection process. And if you want to suggest process in the future, I think it's important to come forward at the very beginning before anybody is selected, because that is a true assessment of, look, we want this process to be followed. And I didn't see anything before tonight, and so it's a management position. He's clearly qualified if you review his resume. He's eager to take on this role. He also has the recommendation of our town administrator, who is separate from the fire department, and he is the appointing authority under our charter. So unless there's something glaring in terms of not being qualified, we're not in a position to make our own arbitrary decision. He's qualified. He's got the support of our town administrator, the appointing authority. And nobody had an issue about the selection process before somebody was selected.
Communication from the top down, what do you answer that question from your TA?
It's not recognized. You're not recognized.
Nobody,
I'm just saying, if something was given to me in writing, I apologize to everybody, but I don't remember seeing anything in writing before the Board of Selectmen. Before the Board of Selectmen.
He's a friend of the chief, that's the problem. He's a friend of the
okay, Mary,
That's it, I'm done. I'm done.
okay, thank you. Any more discussion from the board?
As a resident of the
Hearing no more discussion, all in favor of the motion?
resident of the town, could I speak?
Let the residents speak.
No,
Let the residents speak.
no, the chair is not recognizing anyone from the audience.
This is the problem, you wouldn't listen to people from the start.
What about the vote of no confidence, are we just ignoring that?
Right, it just.
I'll answer.
Jeff, I really can't,
I'll answer the vote of no confidence.
Wait a minute, hold on. There's a motion
Wait a
on the
minute.
floor.
Is there a second to use?
there's a motion on
seconded
the
it,
floor. It's seconded, we've had discussion. All those in favor of the motion to appoint Jonathan L. Miller as Deputy Fire
falling on
Chief,
deaf ears, anyway.
raise your hand.
She's calling the question.
I've called the vote. All those in favor of the vote, all those in favor of the appointment of Jonathan L. Miller as Deputy Fire Chief? Okay, all those opposed? It carries 5-0.
Mary, some of the people in the audience, I know it's, hold on. I know it's up to your discretion as the chair, but will you allow anybody to ask a question rather than a comment? or not? That's what I'm hearing from them.
Mary, I don't think that's going to work out because it'll get into stuff that's been on Facebook and erroneous stuff. And I do appreciate the signs that people have, and I don't want them to think that the board does not support the firefighters. We do, and we went through the process.
Hold on,
Well,
hold on. Hold on.
Did the vote pass? I
Yeah,
think
it's a
Vote pass, a
5-0 vote.
5-0 vote.
5-0 vote. Okay.
5-0.
Question.
And I just want,
Okay.
can I say something else to them or not?
Well, Mary, if, go ahead, and then we
I
need
just-
to move on. We have a lot.
Hold on.
Public forums.
It's very inappropriate for us to speak about anything that went on in an executive session, but for the members who were present in the executive session, that executive session and the sentiments that were expressed still holds. This is separate. This is an appointment that's under the chief's right as a management person, but the executive session discussion still holds. It's separate, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Okay,
That's not true.
I just have a question about the background check process. It's
okay, wait a minute.
First in command is in
We're moving on. We're on item E now. Consideration and
B.
possible.
We need B.
We're an item.
Item B.
B, consideration and possible action on the appointment and confirmation of David Hoyt as a firefighter / EMT with the Sturbridge Fire Department. Chief?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to bring Dave Hoyt forward. Dave is currently a call member of the department. He's a resident of Spencer who was honorably discharged from the United States Navy. He's been in the fire service since 2010, and he's been a full-time firefighter in Spencer since 2017. Dave holds numerous certifications, including Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2, Fire Instructor 1, and Fire Prevention Officer 1. He earned his National Registry EMT in 2019, and as I said, he's been a call firefighter in Sturbridge since 2020. He also served as a call firefighter in Sturbridge from 2012 to 2015. Upon appointment, his rate of pay will be $20.84 an hour, which is consistent with the agreement between the town of Sturbridge and the Teamsters Local 170, and his appointment will be effective October 18th, 2021.
Okay, questions from the board?
If I may, just one further comment. We would ask that the candidate be given 3 years from date of appointment to receive their paramedic certification.
Good.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to confirm the appointment of David Hoyt as a full-time firefighter with the Sturbridge Fire Department, effective October 18th, 2021, at a rate of $20.84 per hour, providing 3 hours from date of appointment to receive a Massachusetts paramedic certification as a condition of employment.
3 years.
3 years.
You misspoke.
3.5 years.
3 years.
3 years. 3 years. You said hours.
Oh, I'm sorry. 3 years. You gotta get it done right now. Sorry.
Have to be a quick study.
I'll second that. Block start.
Any discussion?
I just want to say something.
All in
You're very-
favor?
Well, no, I just want to say welcome, and you're
Okay.
very, very qualified, and I'm very happy that you want to get your paramedic license as well, so, thank you.
Okay, thank you, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're down to the
Never heard so much.
consideration and possible action on the use of Chapter 90 funds for the cost of relocating a utility pole for the Grand Trunk Trail System. Jeff, is anyone there from the,
Yeah, Butch is here to talk to about this project.
Make sure you get your picture.
Hello. This is just part of the continuation of the trail project. This comes from the Calcutt Bridge up to River Road. When you get to the River Road, the trail, we have a walking path from there to, from Farquhar Road to River Road. It's about
Can you
300
pull that a
feet.
little closer to you?
Can't hear anything.
There's a lot of background.
And in that walking path is this pole. So we wanted to move this pole to the opposite side of the street to get it out of the trail, basically. So it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Any questions from the board? Is there a motion?
I will move to approve the use of Chapter 90 funds in the amount of $6,797.46 for utility pole relocation at Farquhar Road for the construction of a portion of the Grand Trunk Trail.
I'll second that.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0.
That was nice.
Okay, thank you, Butch. Okay, next, we have consideration and possible action on the allocation of potential Chapter 90 funds for the improvements to Cedar Pond Road. Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. As we've discussed the potential recreation improvement projects at the Cedar Lake Recreation Area, a topic of discussion has come repeatedly, and it came up with the discussion on the senior center, was the improvements to Cedar Pond Drive, Cedar Pond Road, that would be necessary in the event we did enhance that recreation area. We've discussed the use of Chapter 90 funds in the event that the town meeting approves the project and that the debt exclusion was awarded by the voters. As we go into town meeting, perhaps a statement of intent on behalf of the Board of Selectmen to say those funds are available for that project in the event this passes would be helpful to the project. That way it's clarified that yes, these funds are available, and yes, the board does have an intention to improve the street necessary to accommodate the improvements. There's roughly $4 million of Chapter 90 funds available. This project would consume about 1.9 million of them, which would include drainage, sidewalks, all those things that would make that road a much better road for that area.
Okay, questions from the board? Okay, somebody want to make a motion then?
I'll make a motion to tentatively allocate the 1.9 million of Chapter 90 funds to the improvements of Cedar Pond Road contingent upon the approval of the funding of the Cedar Pond Rec Field project.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second Chase's motion.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, I have some. Oh, Mary, I have a couple.
No, go ahead, Jamie.
Sorry, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. So, at the last meeting, we had the plan to tentatively build ball fields down in this part of town. So, is this happening regardless? So is the point we need to make improvements regardless of whether or not we build an additional ball field, or is the point that we want to make sure that in the event that we end up developing this area, that this $1.9 million would be used in that for that reason? Does that make any sense?
It does, and it's probably a little of both. There's probably improvements that need to be done to that road anyway, drainage and sidewalks particularly, whether or not without the rec field project, particularly the roundabout at the end of the roadway to separate the traffic that uses the rec area from the neighborhood, probably wouldn't be necessary, but the other improvements, drainage, sidewalks, some of those things that would prohibit parking along the road and then enhance the parking in the area would be necessary.
So I guess the question I have, and maybe it can't be answered right now, is that without sort of seeing how this $1.9 million is line itemed, it's hard for me to support it, because it's just like we're spending $2 million without sort of breaking it down.
Sure.
So I'm probably reluctant to vote for this at this time, although I'm happy to make any necessary improvements to the area.
I assume that as tentative, that we would be subject to all the process that we normally would go through, where it would be, they'd come with a plan and then we'd approve the money, correct? This is just to say if the project does pass, the funds are available to do the necessary improvements to the road.
Yeah, so we're kind of earmarking.
Pretty much.
So that's kind of what, I don't know if we need it for something else.
Right.
I think I'd need a little more detail.
But we would just be earmarking it for the next 30 days till town meeting, correct?
Well, till town meeting, then you'd have the election in January for the debt exclusion, and then you'd have to get into design.
So how long is that period?
You'd be next summer,
Yeah.
but once you have the debt exclusion,
You'd be able,
then you have a real project. Then you'd begin the full-scale design of the improvements and the roadway.
Well,
Mary?
I appreciate Jamie's concern, but we're not doing anything with it. I mean, right now, we're not foregoing another project for those
No.
funds. That would be different if we were putting something else off, but since we're not, I don't have a problem earmarking it. And regardless of whether or not that field goes forward, I do think those improvements that you talked about, the sidewalk and such, should be there anyway for those who use that recreation area. So for that reason, I'm gonna support it.
Jamie, I understand your point, but if it does become a project, that's when the dollar items would be broken out. So much for this, so much for that. This is just really, as Jeff says, tentatively to hold the money, earmark it. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Did anybody make?
Motion?
Did we have a motion?
I don't think anyone made a motion. Oh, you did, I'm
I
sorry.
thought-
Oh, I apologize.
did.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Ian did in second.
Yeah, sorry.
So we do have a motion, a second, and discussion. All in favor of the motion?
4-1.
Okay, 4, all against, 4-1. Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have consideration and possible action on the resignation of the food service coordinator of the Council on Aging, Jean Borowski. Okay, she's accepted another position, so do we have a motion?
I move to accept the resignation with regret.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, consideration and possible action on the resignation of custodian Sean Lands. Of course, we don't have a letter from him, do we, Jeff?
We just have a text to Robin. So
Oh, well,
he's been on leave for some time and hoping to be able to come back, but he is not able to come back.
okay. So do we have a motion then to accept the resignation?
So moved, Chase.
Second. Ian?
Discussion, all in favor? Okay, 5-0. Jeff, speaking of that, have we gotten the letter of resignation from the Burgess School Committee person yet?
I think that's been filed with the town clerk, and we've been actively recruiting candidates.
Oh, okay.
Yep, we have until
Has there been any,
the end of October that we're receiving letters of interest.
okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have consideration and possible action on the use of proprietary products for resurfacing the apparatus floors of the public safety building.
Robin's going to talk to us about that this evening.
Welcome back, Robert.
Thank you. I'll use the mic better this time. Sorry about earlier. So tonight, I have in front of you the request for the board to review and hopefully authorize a determination regarding the use of a proprietary specification pursuant to Mass General laws. So there's a capital project that has been on hold for a little bit for the Apparatus Bay flooring refinishing at the fire department. Prior to the application of funds for the project, Chief Grasso and his team had done extensive research online. And then when I came on as facilities manager, I did additional research to look for industry equivalents to the HyberFlex EB system. There really are no direct equivalents to this product, and unfortunately, under Mass General Law, they ask that the awarding authority support the bid process with a proprietary specification. So I'm asking that the board support us going out to bid, asking contractors to provide the HyberFlex EB system in their bid.
Okay, questions from the board?
I would just comment that I have experience using this exact in an industrial application, and it was amazing. It weathers, it stands up extremely well to abuse, and it's very durable. So
That's good to
definitely
hear.
something to back. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no harsh chemicals
Okay.
in it. That
So,
would be detrimental to health or the environment.
Once it's
No,
applied,
right,
there's
right,
no odor. The process of applying it can be, you obviously have to wear a respirator and other items, but once it's applied, it's there's no fumes, there's no nothing. Yeah.
Do you agree
right,
with?
yes, I agree with that statement. And it's in the apparatus space, so when the contractor is applying that, we can section off the building, make sure the vents to the rest of the building are not, there's no air exchange, and the garage bay doors can be opened for the health and safety of the contractor as well as the staff in the building.
And we know that the contractor has experience with this process, this product.
Yes, they actually have to be certified by the manufacturer to install this product, so that would be part of our requirements for the bid.
We've not bid this yet.
Oh, okay.
We want to use,
Right.
we want to use the product in the bid.
Okay.
So we're asking you in advance to use a proprietary product.
Oh,
So
okay.
any contractor that bids, we'd have to get
Certified.
get their statement of qualifications in their use of the product.
Yeah, Mary, this company only sells their product to companies that are certified to install it.
Oh, okay. All right. That kind of alleviates any,
Yep.
because I read this and I'm like, seems pretty, technical and, so, okay.
Okay, any more questions?
Nope.
Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the determination regarding proprietary specific request for the use of HyberFlex EB Duraflex product.
I'll second that.
Is there a second? Okay. Discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, thank you again, Robin.
Thanks,
Thank
Robin.
you.
Okay, next we have a consideration and possible action on a special one-day liquor license request for Greater Good Brewing Company.
Is there
Okay,
someone?
thank you,
Madam Chair. Yep, I'm remote. Johnny here with Greater Good Brewing Company. And the one-day license is in regards to the Sturbridge Fall Town Fire on October 23rd from 5 to 9 p.m. Greater Good would be delivering and removing any excess product, and will provide a certificate of insurance with any other entities required to be listed. And will bring their own tip certified employees.
Okay, any questions, comments from the board? Okay, and your hours you're requesting 5 to 9?
Yep, 5 to 9 p.m.
Okay. Any comments, board? Someone want to make a motion one way or the other?
I'd like to make the motion to approve the application for Greater Good Brewing for October 23rd, 2021, from 5 to 9.
I will second that motion.
Okay, discussion? All in favor? Okay, 3, all opposed? All abstaining? 2 abstentions. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have consideration and possible action on the 2021 special town meeting warrant.
Madam Chair, can we just jump over that and get to L? because I think the warrants are going to take some time.
Okay. Consideration and possible action on a hawker and peddler's license for Heather Hamilton. Is Heather there?
Yes.
Yeah, that one seat's out of my screen.
Heather, can you just move over a little bit, please? Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, could you please explain to the board and the citizens at home what it is?
I just got a job with a solar company, and I have to have a license for the sales.
Okay, now, you going to be doing this out of your home, or?
No, I work for Sunrun. They're out of Chicopee, but I have to get it in each town that I go to.
Okay, questions from the board?
So are you going, just explain, do you go door to door?
Yes, yes,
Okay, I assume unsolicited door to door.
yes.
Okay. I'm just going to, because this has come up in the past, and just because it's a strange time with the pandemic, to go into people's houses, I'm going to,
Yeah, but we have to wear a mask.
okay, I was going to condition
And I'm
mine.
vaccinated, but yes, we do wear a mask for it.
Okay. And we'll just make that part of our motion, too.
Yep,
Hopefully, if people support it. But that's what we've done in the past with the,
yeah.
in the last year. Okay.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Someone want to make a motion then to approve the hawker peddler license?
I'll make a motion that we approve a hawker and peddler license for Heather Hamilton with the condition that a mask be worn when she goes door to door. And are the hours written? I'm sorry.
It's usually till it gets dark,
Okay,
so when it starts getting dark,
okay, with the last visit to a house at dusk.
yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
And now we're back to the special town meeting warrant. We do have more information to add to it, so we will need a motion to reopen the warrant for the special town meeting.
I'll make a motion to open the warrant for the special town meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, Jeff, you want to,
Yes, thank you. On the dais this evening are a revised set of warrants. These include the dollar amounts for both the senior center project and the rec field project. We've also, based upon comments received at the public hearing and working with the town attorney, we've added some language to the equestrian park bylaw. If you look at the top of page 6, you can see there's a bolded and underlined phrase there, portion of that section G. This section basically eliminates the potential, if a special permit's granted, from using Breakneck Road for event traffic. This limits the traffic to I-84. It doesn't say it explicitly, but it prohibits the use of Breakneck Road for the event traffic. And if you read on into the bylaw, those provisions talk about, for ball fields and some of the other elements which Breakneck Road may be allowed to be used for, including emergency access, but not for the event traffic. We've also updated to include the CPC has acted on the ball field request where they are asking to be able to borrow $1 million towards the ball field project. That's in the ball field item. And then we consolidated at the last meeting, the board asked to move the equestrian bylaw to the second position on the warrant. And as you know, there's 3 separate votes for that element: the bylaw itself, the amendment to the definitions in the zoning, and the amendment to the map in the zoning. So what we've done is we've moved those other 2 up That way, that group of people who are there for the equestrian facility get a chance to vote on all three without moving around to different topics. So the ball field project is now the fifth article. And as I said, we've put the dollar amounts in. The senior center project is at $11,450,000. And the ball field project is at 5.4 with 1 million coming from CPC. We fully intend, as we move forward with both these projects, that other grant opportunities will materialize, but we need a project approved in order to seek out those grants and get them approved. There's also fundraising that will take place for the senior center project, and if approved at town meeting for both of these, and if approved by the debt exclusion in January, particularly senior center, we'll have to go through several months of consultant selection to pick the architect, and then go through a very detailed design element. So there'll be plenty of time for us to seek alternative funding sources for the project. We intend by the end of this week to have detailed impacts to the tax rate for both projects, looking at what's coming off the debt, the different elements of the issuance. The senior center may be issued in 2 or 3 tranches of bonds, and then impacts over time. So we'll have that information for you all shortly. Finance Committee is attempting to meet this Thursday and then next week to finish these up, or actually to work these articles. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
I'm sure Willie can talk more about each one as we go through, but that's the differences tonight.
Okay. I'll wait until we go through each one.
Okay, so the first article then is the senior center design and construction, to see if the town will appropriate the sum of $11,450,000 to pay costs of designing, engineering, constructing, equipping and furnishing a renovated and expanded senior center to be located at 480 Main Street, and for the payment of any and all incidental and related costs, including but not limited to demolition and site preparation, to determine whether this amount shall be raised by taxation, transfer from available funds, borrowing, or otherwise, and that any borrowing approved for this project shall be expressly contingent upon approval by the voters at an election of a debt exclusion question in accordance with General Law, Chapter 59, Paragraph 21, CK, also known as Proposition 2.5. The Board of Selectmen and any other appropriate officials of the town are authorized to apply for federal, state, or private grants, enter into any agreements, and execute all documents, including contracts, for a term in excess of 3 years, as may be necessary to effectuate the purposes of this article, and to accept any gifts or grants provided to the town for such purposes, or take any action relative thereto. Okay, is there a motion then on that article? To place in support, or
I just had
not to?
I have a question. I thought it was 10 million. How did we get to 11.45?
The incremental increase in the market, and then we added some funds for builder's risk insurance and some additional contingency funds. And the construction is still 18 months away if we were to start today. We had to up the amount for the rental of a particular place as well to temporarily house the facility.
I mean, I still support it. I just feel that, I understand why we had to do it, but the more that figure goes up, the less likely people are going to support it. So I just want to say again, I really wish that, and we have done it, I believe, with the center office building and across the street, that we would have had a warrant article from the CPA designating, if they were willing, a certain amount of their funds. And I think that sends the message to the people who attend town meeting that we're getting the funding from more than one source. And, you know, I personally think we should have had a CPA warrant article for any amount that that group would have been willing to do, rather than doing it this way. I think it would have stood a better chance of winning, because that money, as we all know, is already a surcharge, and it is a historical building. And I just think that that's what we should have done. So, I mean, I still support it, but the more, politically, I think it would have been a better move to do that.
If I may respond to that. The CPC did have a conversation about that the other night. We fully intend to address that with CPC in the future. When we identify those historic elements of the building, we will be able to preserve as we move forward. Right now, we don't know what the historic preservation tasks of the project will be. So we weren't really able to put a dollar value on that. We know the exterior veneer of the building will remain, but in terms of overall historic preservation, we don't have a good handle on what specific elements of that cost factor will be in the project.
Does that answer your question, Mary?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have expertise in this, but it seemed to me that I don't know how, if we're gutting the inside and it's a historical building, I don't know how we'd separate, you know, we'll use CPC money for the front doors, but not for, you know, the recreation room. To me, it's an historic building, and if we're gutting it, we should be able to use historic money to renovate the inside. I guess I don't understand why we have to know exactly what.
Because it's preservation, historic preservation. What are we preserving of the element of the character in the building? So we fully intend to have some of those projects addressed in design, but we don't know today what the dollar value of that may be, or what particularly they will be. We are gutting the building. The biggest historic piece of that building is that stairway, which is coming out.
And the roof. I mean, they paid for the roof, right? And well.
I understand. We have a chicken and egg problem.
We got a chicken and egg problem, but I mean, it would have been nice if they could have earmarked something, because you know it's going to exceed whatever they're willing to do. So they could have, I don't know, estimated the stairway and the roof. You know, we replaced the roof in Center Office Building with CPC money for $800,000, I think it was, or it was a large amount of money.
We still have some time.
Okay, that's just that, you know.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion then about placing and supporting, or not placing?
I will move to place and support.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay. So we've done the wording already, Jeff, haven't we, on, I have the old one, Article 47.
We've revised Article 47 to include that language that requires them to use I-84. So it is a modified bylaw this evening.
Right, because we did make the other modifications on the lot coverage in the
Yeah, at the last meeting.
previous, yeah.
Can I just make sure I
Okay.
understand it?
Mary?
I just want to make sure I understand it. So you can't use Breakneck Road, but you can use it for emergencies, and you can use it as a service road for the farmers market, fairs, festival, and events by the Future Farmers of America or similar organizations, parking facilities, and non-commercial recreational facilities like ball fields, pickle courts, hiking trails. But it also can be used for parking facilities. So if you're going to park, you can use Breakneck Road. Is that right?
The ball fields would have an associated parking lot with them.
Yeah, but
And for the trails. So there are parking lots associated with the field, so yes, you would be able to park. use it to park for those.
Maybe I'm reading this wrong, Jean, but when I see parking facilities, it doesn't, to me, limit the parking facilities to the parking associated as an incidental use to fairs and farmers market. It's just parking facilities by itself. So at a minimum, that it's ambiguous as to whether parking facilities also include parking for the equine center itself. Like, that's not listed as an incidental to the others. It's on its own, independent.
I do see what you're saying.
Because if you look at number 1, CB refers to all of the equine center. Number 1 says live and simulcast horse racing with wagering. So that is number 1. It's the simulcast racing. Parking facilities is number 9. There's nothing in this bylaw that limits parking facilities to ball field usage.
Ball fields or the other items, the
But I mean,
Boy Scout festivals and.
yeah, no, I mean, it stands independent of. So under this bylaw, it can also be used for parking for simulcast racing events. That's the way it's worded.
Perhaps we can qualify that in some way.
Madam Chair, if I may, we did address this during the day with the town council. Jean, you may have missed those conversations.
Yes, I didn't get that, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So yes.
So my recollection is we're not having an open hearing at present, and so why are we taking testimony from the audience on one issue and not another?
Right.
I think it's inappropriate, Madam Chair.
Well, we did address it with the
Yes.
town council today.
All right.
And we fixed it.
No.
So if you
We
want
can-
to fix, I'd be happy to tell you.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
We can work with town council on those deficiencies and bring them back to your meeting on October 18th.
Right, because we'd still have the, well, it has to be amended before it's posted.
Well, I have a comment later on in the evening about the host community agreement and maybe meeting on that too separately. That way we can flesh through that before town meeting as well. So maybe as we get into that conversation, we can talk about tweaking this section for the bylaw.
And I do apologize if I missed an email, but I did receive an email saying this has been amended per our conversations with Attorney George. And this, and I'm leaking. And this was the language that I did have, so I apologize for that. I can work with Jonathan Silverstein again tomorrow to make sure I have that corrected language.
Yeah, because right now it's a parking.
No,
lot
I
for
do
the
understand
racing.
what you're saying. Yep, I absolutely do.
All right. Okay.
Guess I'm done.
Okay, thank you, June.
All right, so moving on to Article 48 is now the change to the definitions in the zoning.
I was
The
leaving.
language hasn't changed, just the
The
numbering.
language hasn't changed.
Just
but
the
I'll-
just the numbering.
Right.
And I don't know if that requires a new vote or not.
No, not to renumber that,
Okay.
because we voted on that one already.
Okay, so 48 and 49 are as they were, other than being renumbered. Article 50 is the recreation ball field project, which is 5.4 million.
Okay. Anyone have a question on that?
Quick one, Mayor.
Trace?
Yeah, does that 5.4 million include the upgrades to the road, or that's just straight field?
That's fields and
And-
drainage and ADA, and the ADA improvements to the rest of the rec area.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, the only thing we did was add in the dollar amount.
That's correct.
Okay, so somebody want to make a motion on that one?
This is Article 50.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to place and support Article 50. And this is just for 60 Cedar Street, right? This isn't 70, it's just 60.
Correct.
60.
Hold on, let me, about a year ago, when they were designing 60 Cedar Street, you allowed the field, in order to accommodate the wider road and the pedestrian sidewalk and the retaining wall, you allowed them to encroach on 70 Cedar Street somewhat for the field. So it doesn't go very far into 70 Cedar Street, but it's not solely limited to 60 either.
Do you know the amount of the encroachment?
I believe it's about 20 feet, but you would have to check the latest plan that we have. And it's also posted on the Recreation's website. She has a whole section of her website devoted to the information around the turf.
Okay, but you're thinking 20 feet, so it's kind of
Yeah, there was the
insignificant
bleacher
amount.
area plus a little bit more, plus a little bit of grading just to get the hillside, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And, okay.
Okay, Mary made the motion. Did somebody want to second it?
I'll second Mary's motion.
Okay, any discussion?
Madam Chair, if I may, just.
Jamie?
Yeah, so now, I'm not necessarily against spending this type of money on fields, but with what is now a $12 million, just shy of $12 million ask, or maybe $11 million, $11.5 million, and then adding what is effectively, with the earmark from earlier tonight, a $7.3 million project on top of it, I just think it's a little too much at once, and I think we have to just work on first improving the fields that we have, and then evaluating whether or not to take additional action. So not against it generally, just not sure it's the right time.
Yeah. Jamie, it is an awful lot of money, and I think it'll be really up to the townspeople to decide how much and on what they would like to spend it. It's just unfortunate it happened that both projects at the same time have been moving along, but such is the way of town government. Okay, any more discussion?
That's a good point.
Okay, so we have a motion. Who had seconded? Chase?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Okay, 4. All those opposed? Okay, 4-1.
And the other
Okay.
articles have not been changed.
Right. Okay, so,
I'm being handed hot off the press.
yes.
from Ms.
Last version that I did not print before I came over.
Would you allow Jean to explain the last version?
Yes, yes, Jean. And Jean, my apology, I hadn't greeted you when you came in because my screen, that chair is like out of view.
Just move over a little.
Oh, okay.
I have a perfect view of the empty chair.
I just have to grab my glasses so I can see what I'm reading to you, and then I'll move over. So I do apologize. There was a version sent late in the day that I did not provide to you, and am not quite sure how I missed it. So the issue that Mary Dowling brought up was addressed in Jonathan Silverstein's latest edits. And so he's proposing to change that language to public access to the Equine Center from Breakneck Road shall be prohibited, provided that the SPGA may permit access from Breakneck Road for the provision of emergency services and public access and parking for the uses listed in section 300-21.4, subparagraph B, 4, 5, 19, 22, 24, and 26. So 9 was removed, and 9 is the parking spaces. So it
We were on the
further-
same page.
Yes, and my apologies, I'm glad Attorney George had printed it out before he left his office this evening, so.
All right, can I ask something else? So I'm just curious, I know because Jeff said now it's I-84. Is there a reason that we have language prohibiting the use of Breakneck Road, but we didn't take it a step further and say the only access shall be through any curb cut on 84? Is there a specific reason why 84 is left out of the bylaw entirely?
Yes, so this was actually a question that came up during the public hearing, and I think my response at the public hearing was it was highly unusual to put limiting language that would require access from a state highway. And so I did have conversations with town council, and he did agree with that. And then the individual that raised the issue at the public hearing contacted me again late last week and said, you know, I'm just wondering if there's a different way to do this, and can you explore this further? And I said, let me reach out to town council and see if there is some way to do this. So town council did say that the first idea that this individual had at public hearing was to put it with the map amendment. So obviously we know we can't put regulatory limitations on a zoning map change. So then the other area was, is there some language that can be inserted in the bylaw somewhere? And so Jonathan Silverstein's opinion was that we shouldn't put that access must come from I-84. However, we should change it and limit that access cannot be through Breakneck Road, because that was the main concern, is that the local roads would be used for it. So rather than referring to a state highway for access, it's the...
So you're saying we'll prohibit, but we're not going to require something? So I'm wondering, okay, that's fine. I mean, it's just silent on it, so now we don't know. And I assume, well, I'll bring it up when we discuss the host agreement, because that's the big promise, so it's got to appear somewhere.
It'll be in the host agreement.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
So, which is different than being in a bylaw. 'Cause
Right.
A host agreement is a contract that is
Absolutely.
subject to change.
Right.
So the townspeople are only voting that we're prohibiting it except for service and emergency.
And
And did Jonathan get into how we're going to enforce this type of bylaw if it gets passed with respect to like navigators and ways that send people alternative ways? Because, and if he didn't get into it, that's fine, because we have a terrible problem right now on Route 15. We had a problem on Fakra. We can't do anything about it, apparently. So I'm curious how a bylaw prohibiting the use of a road is going to translate into telling ways that they can't send them that way.
we did not
You
have
didn't
that
address that?
discussion.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else on that? Okay, do we have a motion then to approve the change in language for section G?
I'll make a motion to approve the language for Section G, Article 47.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any more discussion? All in favor? All opposed? 3-2. Okay, so we've hit it all, Jeff, right?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Again,
could
my
we have...
apologies.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, can we have a motion then to close the warrant for the special town meeting?
I'll make a motion to close the warrants in the special town meeting.
I will second that motion.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, next on the agenda, old business. Jeff?
Yes, on COVID-19, the senior center has been working with community seniors to schedule booster shots. Although they're not available yet, they are taking and helping them make appointments for when they will be available. If anybody in the community who is eligible for a booster shot would like to have help with getting those appointments made, you can contact the senior center. Also, the Sturbridge Board of Health is still working on having a COVID-19 booster clinic in Sturbridge, and So they're still trying to get a local clinic. More on that should be forthcoming as those clinics materialize throughout the region.
Okay, and under the booster shots, they're only available for those who have received the Pfizer vaccination. Okay. Okay, still under old business. Ian, do you have anything?
No.
Chase?
No.
Mary?
I do. This relates back to the public hearing for the Equine Center on the 13th. And so I'm just repeating something that I had asked for, and I just want to state for the record, I had asked, will the Board of Selectmen have the opportunity to review and approve in advance the application for the gaming license? And I was assured that the Board of Selectmen would. And we just got a signed copy, and, you know, it didn't happen. So as far as I'm concerned, somebody broke a promise. I don't know how. I understand from getting that today that it did go to council, and apparently the consultant. But my question was, is the Board of Selectmen going to get a copy of that before it's filed? And I was told yes, it's been broadcast, and we didn't. And so I want that to go in the record that I'm very disappointed that that's how that went down. And I also just want to say, as part of that, the letter that was written to the commissioners by Mary, our chair, is a little ambiguous with respect to how it's worded. I think that it gives the possible impression that it was a unanimous vote. It's worded very craftily, and I don't know who drafted this for your signature, Mary, but I am pleased to inform you that after due consideration, the Board of Selectmen, which consists of Chair Mary Blanchard, Vice Chair Mary Dowling, Selectman Chase Kabinski, Selectman Ian Dunnigan, and Selectman Jamie Goodwin, approved the location of the proposed racetrack. And that really gives the impression that it was unanimous. So I think it's ambiguous, and just to put everybody on record, I am going to, because if we would have had an opportunity to see this application before it was filed, then I would have been able to say to the board, I don't like the wording of this. It makes it look like both Jamie and I were in favor of it, when in fact it was a 3-2 split. And so now I don't have any other option because it was already filed. And I am going to write and just respectfully clarify the ambiguity and say, to the extent it appears that it was unanimous, it is not. I personally did not vote to approve, and I don't know if Jamie wants to be a part of that letter or not. I would have liked to have not have to have done this, but again, we didn't get this before it was filed. And I think it's misleading at worst, but, to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, it's just ambiguous. And I don't want to be associated with approving of the location.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Yep.
Madam Chair.
Jamie?
Yeah, I was pretty mad when I read that this afternoon. I don't know if anybody meant to do it. I don't know if council reviewed it. I assume they did, which is probably what makes me the most angry about it. But I might be being dramatic, but it appears misleading, and it's a representation to the State Gaming Commission, and it's indicative of the type of practices that has gone around with this application. It's an end run. There's not adequate process here. It is an end run. We are rushing to do this. We're talking, I'm not sure what the host community agreement conversation is going to be tonight, but this board would be, even regardless of whether or not this passes or not, if you're in this community, you should not want us to rush this hosted community agreement through right before the racetrack meeting. It makes no sense. They're not giving us the information we need to adequately negotiate this project. It's an end run. It's unacceptable. And with that, I will get off my soapbox.
Can I ask a question, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Is it possible to amend that letter in the application?
Hold on. Yes. I'm going to write, at this point, it's been filed.
Okay.
I will write my own letter and explain, I did not have an opportunity to review this letter prior to filing, and I just want to clarify that I did not vote in the affirmative. Had it not already been submitted to the gaming, that would have been fine. But at this point, it's been filed, and I'm going to write a letter and correct it. I'm just going to put it out there, and obviously, of course, everybody on this board will get a copy of the letter, simply stating I did not have an opportunity to review, to the extent it appears that it was unanimous, and maybe they won't think it was. I'm going to clarify that. If Jamie would like to sign the same letter, that's great. But it's been filed now, and I'm going to write my own letter. I'm very, very disappointed that we did not have an opportunity. And maybe that falls on our own counsel, because counsel was present, and I specifically asked, and to their credit, was assured by the applicant, to their credit, yes, we'll send it to the board before it's filed. And it wasn't. I mean, you saw it, Mary, because you wrote this letter, but the rest of us didn't. And I'm going to correct it myself at this point. And when we discussed the host agreement, I had a lot of examples. I also plan to, just so everybody knows, show the host agreement that Suffolk Sterling signed with the city of Boston when they had a racetrack there, and all the things that they gave the city financially and otherwise, as well as other host agreements that were filed with respect to casinos, Springfield, because I don't think that draft is anywhere close to the protections that other towns and cities have gotten in their host agreement. And I'm going to ask the board to look at some of the other ones that were negotiated. So.
Okay, anything else under old business, Mary?
No, that's it.
Okay, Jenny?
I think I've said enough. Thanks, Mary.
Can I talk new business?
Yes.
So in regards to the host community agreement, the version we have is crafted by the applicant. We have a revised draft with input, what we've heard from the board and what we took away from the public hearing, and some of those other elements that were included in those other host community agreements referenced by Selectwoman or Vice Chair Dowling. So we would like to set up a meeting with the board to review that, maybe specifically a night to go over that agreement, get feedback from the board, and then continue the revision. That way there is a host community agreement that exists with direct input from the Board of Selectmen in the community, and we can continue to work it till it concludes, one way or the other. So I don't know what the board's thoughts are on that, but we'd like to see if we could do something like that. You do have a meeting on the 18th. You could do it then, or if you want to take a shot at it and review it the week prior, that way we can bring it back on the 18th for additional review. That's possible as well.
If I may, Madam Chair?
How does the board feel? I would be amenable to a meeting prior to our next meeting and just have that on the agenda.
Yes. Yes.
Because as Jeff says, you know, we could even revise it then, additions or deletions. So would the board be amenable to another meeting?
Go ahead.
Well, first, I have a logistical issue. I'm on trial next week. I didn't do anything, but.
I was going to say guilty.
But beyond that, I don't understand what the point of it would be. We're not going to have the information to know what the economics of this are. We're not going to have the information to know what deal we should enter into. I do not understand why this community would want us to rush into that agreement 2 weeks before they're voting on it. That if the framing of this by the applicant has been, we ought to be the stopgap. We are the control. We are what they can rely upon. But then they don't give us the information so we can negotiate the agreement. Why would we do that? So that's my 2 cents.
I'm going to weigh in too.
Mary?
I will absolutely make myself available for as many additional meetings that are required to specifically go over the host agreement. But I also am going to put people on notice because I've been doing some research myself, and different attorneys advise very differently. I agree with Selectman Goodwin. Other agreements, the attorneys order the studies, the economic impact study, the traffic study, the noise mitigation, and the results of those studies are used to mitigate and refer to in your host agreement. In other words, those studies are done and complete, and then you use those studies for mitigation purposes in your host agreement. They're finished, and often they're attached as exhibits to the host agreement. It's unheard of to sign the host agreement and address mitigating factors without having that, because that's what you utilize. And I'm going to bring in, a statement by an attorney out of Chicago that Springfield hired and other communities hired, and he outlined exactly what he was going to do. And clearly, all the studies were going to be completed first, and then you negotiate the host agreement, because that's what you use to negotiate. Otherwise, it's pretty empty. And I agree with the process that gaming professional used, and so I'll definitely go over it. But without all those attached, they're attached as exhibits. They have commencement starting dates and penalties if you don't start on a certain date. They have upfront community impact fees paid. It's just, we need that information to sign the host agreement. And if our attorney doesn't agree with that, then I guess attorneys disagree on process. But that's the way it's been done in other communities.
If I may, and I don't disagree, there's nothing that requires the town to sign the agreement before those studies are done, but perhaps it's important to get the board's fingerprints on whatever draft agreement is available for the community prior to town meeting. There's nothing that requires the vote on the host agreement before town meeting, but perhaps to give the community your statement of what your expectations are, at least in a draft, before town meeting.
Chase?
Yeah, Mary, I'll come in and meet, like Mary said, as much as we need to, but next week there's a logistics issue. I'm not on trial, but I won't be able to meet next week.
Okay, Ian?
Yeah, I have one day next week on a Wednesday that I would be available at night, but other than that, it seems like everybody's kind of out, and it goes down to the 18th at that point, so.
Okay?
Okay, so we'll have to, do we want an early start date on the 18th?
Okay? If that's acceptable to the board.
Can everybody make a 5?
Yes.
Chase, Mary?
5 o'clock on the 18th? Is that what
Yes.
you're asking? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, I can make it at 5 o'clock, yes.
Jamie?
Yeah, that should work.
Okay. Do you have that, Jeff?
We do, thank you.
Okay. Okay, new business, Jamie?
No, thank you.
Mary?
No.
Chase?
No.
Ian?
No.
Okay, and I don't have any new business, so correspondence, Chase?
Board of Selectmen's Office Correspondence, date of meeting, October 4th, 2021. September 16th, 2021, Community Compact Congratulations. Letter from Karen Polito, Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to Jeff Bridges. September 17th, 2021, Ageless Connection, Council on Aging newsletter, October newsletter from the Sturbridge Council on Aging to Jeff Bridges. September 20th, 2021, Sturbridge Gaming Hall anonymous flyer to Jeff Bridges. September 24th, 2021, EFSB 18-04 DPU 18-96 Northeast Energy Center LLC. Notice of sitting board meeting from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Energy Facilities, sitting board to Jeff Bridges.
Okay, does anybody else have any other correspondence? Okay, minutes then. We have the minutes of September 13th. Does anyone have any corrections, deletions, additions?
Could I ask that we hold these minutes till the next meeting? I didn't have enough time to review them. I apologize.
Okay, we'll hold them. We also have the minutes of September 20th. Anybody have any additions, deletions, corrections? Okay, if not, is anyone willing to make a motion to approve as written?
Mary, are you good with the second set?
Yes, I did. I'm all set with the
Okay,
second.
all right.
Thank you.
I will, I'll move to accept the minutes from September 20th as written.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, 4 in favor and 1 abstention.
Mary, I have one other thing before we get to citizens forum, please.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
With the impending departure of Ms. McConnon, I'm looking for temporary assistance in my office until such time as I'm able to hire a new assistant. I would like the capability to adjust the salary of an existing employee to accommodate whatever work is done in my office, since it is at a higher pay grade, and that would, the responsibility goes with the pay. So I'd like that flexibility in the event I am able to bring someone in temporarily till we hire a new replacement, including bringing in a temp service employee.
Any comment from the board?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion then to that effect?
I can do it. I will move to allow Town Administrator Bridges to hire temporary assistants and/or allow some other employees in Town Hall to work above grade in order to address workload concerns when with the departure of his, Alex, what's your position?
Executive assistant.
Executive assistant.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Next, we have public forum.
Robin, can you grab that second chair out of there, please?
Madam Chair, Selectmen, select people, I'm sorry. We heard some selectmen get upset because communications seemed to fail at one point with an item. Respectively, that can happen. We're all human beings. I find when I got up to see if I could speak, I've never, ever heard of a citizen being said they couldn't speak on an article during a town meeting, during this forum. So I don't know, is this new, or is this something we're going to continue doing? I have not been made aware of this, or I think it's a dangerous situation when you don't let people get their opinion out. And as you noticed, you guys had that same feeling. You felt like you were end around, word used. Those are things that are really disgusting when it comes to an open town forum. I was upset that I didn't get a chance to speak during that. And I think we really, and I ask this to you all, is this the new way town of Sturbridge is doing business?
Okay. Sir, this is the way town meetings and public meetings have been held forever.
No,
This
you're
is a
wrong.
public-
I've gotten up and spoken.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
This is a public meeting, which if you look it up, you have a right to attend and listen. The chair can recognize people if the chair wants to do so. A public hearing is a legal meeting published, and you have a right to express your opinion then. The Board of Selectmen always listens to what people have to say. My point at the beginning was we were solely voting and discussing the appointment of the deputy fire chief.
And I appreciate that, but how do I get information about that? Because you go in executive session, I'm not privy to his application. I'm not privy to his standards. You said he's qualified. I don't know that. All I know is if the chief is out, this person is coming to make a decision that may save my property or my family. That's what I'm most concerned about. So how do I get that information? If it's blocked in executive session, or it's not an open forum, or...
Well, sir, when the candidate was first presented, Chief Grasso went over his qualifications, and our town administrator went over the qualifications then. So if you had attended that meeting, or if you had tuned into the meeting, you would have heard the qualifications of the candidate presented.
And everything was brought out in the open on that? His qualifications?
Yes.
Okay. So that will be in the minutes of the meeting?
We don't put everything in the minutes, but
His resume is part of this packet.
I'm sorry.
Can I
Oh,
answer?
you can't hear you over the background. So.
Can I speak through the?
Mary, go ahead.
Okay. What's the? Okay, so I just wanted to go over a little bit, because I have been sitting here a long time. It is up to the discretion of the chair, and there is a difference between a public hearing and a public meeting. A public meeting means everybody can attend, but like, say you attended the school committee, they may or may not listen if it's just a public meeting.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a hearing, that's when everybody comes up and speaks. So with appointments, you can make up, his resume and is a public document, so that's what I was referring to. You can absolutely, hold on, see the resume. So, and anytime you want to see anything that's discussed in a meeting, in an open meeting,
Right.
you can make a document request. I mean, that's the formal way of doing it, but I don't think any town administrator or the board has ever really refused. The executive session was not on the appointment of the deputy fire chief. People in the audience started to talk about the executive session, but in the executive session, that is not a discussion of an appointment. All appointments are made in open session. So I just wanted to tell you that's an open session, and any documents that we used for the open session for the appointment would be available to everybody.
And I appreciate that.
Okay.
So,
I don't want to interrupt. Can we just get your name?
yeah,
Record.
Jeff Langevin from Walker Road. So, you guys felt the same thing today, so other people are experiencing. So I felt just like you at that given moment. I felt not happy that that's what we've come to. So I want to just share that with you, and hopefully you guys will have a good night, but thank you.
Well, also, and I just want to also say, so citizens forum is exactly, so the chair didn't recognize people during the appointment, but that is what citizens forum is for. So anybody to come and voice their concerns about any subject that we discussed.
And I appreciate that, but in the past, we've always had discussion open to the floor on articles that were on during the meeting. So that's all I'm saying is, I would have liked to speak on that issue. I don't think I would have been out of line. I think sometimes dialogue is very good for both sides. And that's what I'm trying to say today is, dialogue needs to happen. Communications is free. It doesn't cost anything. It's just your time to hear. So I would hope that we wouldn't revert to a form of government that is shutting people down from not being heard. I think that's a dangerous thing to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Trish Barassa, Brookfield Road. Seeing as we were effectively shut down from discussing the appointment as well as the no confidence vote by Mary, I have a general question. In the past, Sturbridge Fire Department, as well as every other department that I'm aware of, and I'm aware of all of them around, at least locally and not so much, police and fire departments have a process that they use when they're appointing a command position. It involves a very standardized but significant testing process. There are questions and interviews and background checks done. When I heard what the so-called process of this was, it clearly didn't fit with anything that I had ever heard of before. It completely against the realm of anything. So my question is a couple things. Are you going to allow in the future for a chief to do whatever he wants to ensure his friend gets the position, as opposed to sticking to a standardized process? Because I find that offensive. I know too many command people who have had to go through a full testing process. They have to study, they have to do all this stuff to get through it. That didn't happen here. Nice that he made it easy for his friend, but in the future, I would like to see a more standard process. And Mary, you said that you had not heard of anybody questioning the process prior to tonight. I take a little offense to that, because I called Mary Blanchard months ago when this started. We had almost an hour-long conversation about the problems in the fire department and my concerns with the process. For almost an hour, we spoke, Mary, about that. You agreed with me that there were problems in the fire department and said you were going to look into it. So if you're surprised that there's questions about the process, I don't know why. If your chair didn't pass that on to you, I called you specifically.
Sorry, Trish, I don't mean to interrupt you, but some of what you're recollecting, I certainly don't recollect. I did know we discussed problems, but we did not discuss of the process. The department heads of each department pick and choose who they want to put forward to the town administrator. The town administrator is part of the process, and he puts it forward. If the fire department wishes to have a more formal process, it would be up to the fire chief, working with the town administrator, to come to an agreement on a certain process. This is the process we've used before.
No, you've never used this process before, Mary. We can talk to any of the firefighters here. We have never just used a 30 questions, let me ask you some questions, you send it back to me, and we choose. You can roll your eyes at me all you want, that's very professional, but that process is not used, and it's not used in other police and fire departments anywhere. Feel free to ask any of them. He made up his own process, and now we have to deal with it, because you refuse to listen. So I'm simply asking you, in the future, can we make sure we do it like every other police and fire department does, and like we have in the past? I've seen them in the past. So the police department just did it for their positions. They had a testing process.
He determined that with the town administrator.
But that's what I'm asking for. I'm asking right now, for everybody, could we do it right in the future? You let this one go, and it's unfortunate, because it's going to have a lasting effect on the department. Nobody's going to want to listen to what he's saying. The process was not normal for any police and fire department anywhere. And to act surprised about that is a little stunning to me, because we did have a very long conversation, Mary, about all of this. You agreed with me that there are problems on this department, so I find it offensive that now you're backing down and saying no. That's all I have to say.
Can I respond?
But Trish, the problems, the problems, Trish, we discussed about ran through the whole department, not just one aspect.
It was the whole department.
I don't recall discussing the process of choosing a deputy fire chief.
We did, Mary. We talked about the possibility of a no confidence vote coming up because everybody was so upset about things. We talked about all of that in detail, and we talked about the process, because I told you what I had heard, that they got asked questions.
My memory may not be great, but we definitely did not discuss anything about a no confidence
I choose to differ, Mary. I know what my memory is.
At all.
I know what mine is. You could pick and choose your memory. I know what it is. Go ahead, Mary.
So maybe you can put in writing exactly the process that you envision that everybody else has, and give us examples
Easily do
of
that.
the other.
You can look at your police department process.
Yeah, well, that.
Old
yes.
fire department processes.
Yeah, but that was left, yes, but, well, the chief chose, it was still left to the discretion of the chief in that case. So the chief of police chose the process, and I know you agree with it, he chose the process that he wanted to utilize. And because we don't have it in our bylaws, but, you know, the firefighters are unionized, and if that can be the subject of collective bargaining.
They can
I'm not
certainly
trying to
ask
give
that.
advice, but I'm just saying.
They can certainly ask
because
that.
otherwise,
In the
otherwise
future-
otherwise it is left to the discretion of the chief. In this case, the police department chose one process, the fire chief chose another one, but it certainly is something that could be the subject of.
But that's what I'm asking you, Mary. You guys are in charge of them. And what I'm saying is, in the past, anybody that I'm aware of in any of these positions, there's always been a testing process along with background check and interview. It wasn't done here.
Well, I think the background check was most definitely
done.
performed.
The
But
background
maybe,
check was
you know what,
done.
maybe our
done.
town administrator can explain for everybody the process that was used, and you might all.
I heard the process. No, I did hear the process. I'm just saying,
Well, I
I don't
don't know.
necessarily, in the
What
background.
I do want to say, is that I would look forward to working with the membership of the department and the chief to develop a process, not only for this position for the future because we've not had a deputy chief in many, many years. And for any position in the department to come up with a process that builds confidence in the candidate and allows the best possible candidate to get the position. I would look forward to having those conversations and developing those processes with the membership.
We would love that as well, but I'm saying you're looking the other way on this when we certainly spoke up about this, because that wasn't done here. And I don't think you're going to have
I've
much
not
of a
spoken to
department
you
left,
about
quite
that
frankly. I think you're going to see a lot of them leaving, so you're not going to have much to work with anyway.
This is a citizens forum, correct?
Yes.
Where does he live?
Well, yeah, but we acknowledge people who don't live in town. But it's up to Mary. I'm just saying.
Jim Marks, I represent, I work for the Teamsters, Local 170. I represent Sturbridge Fire. I sit here tonight disappointed in the select board, select men and women, for shutting out the residents of Sturbridge, for not hearing the concerns of the firefighters. I sit here and I listen to two select men and women upset that they weren't part of a unanimous vote. And you're upset about that. Your vote, you weren't a unanimous vote for your own reasons. I stand here with men and women of Sturbridge Fire who took a unanimous vote in front of a union to be heard that they have no confidence in their chief. And that means nothing. It means nothing. These men and women rely on the people in charge to make the decisions to make sure that they get out of that building or get out of that accident and get to go home to their families. They took a unanimous vote to say, we don't have the confidence in our chief. We don't have the confidence in our chief for these reasons. I hear all this talk that this is news to me. We never heard about it. Well, I can tell you this. The day after this board gave the chief approval to start looking, the next exact day, we got phone calls, I got phone calls stating, hey, I heard Jonathan Miller is going to be the next deputy chief. The process hasn't even taken place yet. The process, the assessment hasn't even happened. But we already know who the deputy chief is, and we already know who got appointed tonight. So how is that a fair assessment? And how does that give faith to our men and women who are out there doing a job to protect the citizens, the residents of this town? No confidence vote, it doesn't matter. I talked to the TA about that. I said, I have a concern. It went unaddressed. There were Zoom calls that were had with the TA and the members of the Sturbridge Fire regarding the deputy chief. There's been discussions all along. That Zoom call went back in March. We are now in October. There was communication all along. But unfortunately, it wasn't communicated to you guys. And that's a problem. People who are making decisions on hiring, people who are making decisions, important decisions for a town, to be made aware of all issues that have been brought forward. And especially if it's a candidate who is going to look after a department and go in and make vital decisions that could affect whether one of your employees, a member of the Sturbridge Fire, come out of that building at the end of the day. And to them, that means everything. That's tough for me to handle. For somebody to tell me, a business agent, Jim, you're not understanding. These are our concerns. So I sit here and I say, I'm upset. I'm upset, yes. I'm upset because I do not know, A, who's going to do the new fire inspections. Okay? We hired a deputy chief to do fire inspections. This deputy chief does not have the whole qualifications to do all the fire inspections. The whole purpose that I was told, one of the important reasons we need a deputy chief because we need to get somebody out there doing fire inspections on a constant basis without taking, if you guys all heard me say it, boots on the ground, taking away boots on the ground from our department. That's one of the biggest reasons we need a deputy chief. You know what's going to happen? I still lose the boots on the ground, because who's going to do that? The guy that's qualified to do fire inspections in the department. That's a problem I have. It's a big problem. We set a mission to hire a deputy chief. We set a mission to have certain qualifications, and this one doesn't. I sit here and I get an email. I get an email tonight, right? You gotta love technology, right? So I sit here and I get an email tonight, and this email was sent out by District 7 Chief. This email was sent out on a request from Chief Grasso. Chief Grasso is hoping to have a showing of support at the Select Board meeting on October 4th. He believes that having a group of chiefs in Class A uniform simply presents and will go a long way in letting the Board of Selectmen know that we as a district are united. I don't know about you, but I sat here all night. There wasn't one District 7 chief except for our own here. Not one support from a District 7 chief. The only other chief that was here was a close friend of the chief's, and he's in District 11. So here, he's trying to get support on an email that was sent out by a chief, a fire chief, and he couldn't even get the support. What does that tell you? Your own District 7 chiefs could not give the support to the chief in your town that we currently have a no confidence vote on, but we're expected to be everything's going to be okay. We're supposed to leave here tonight and say, don't worry, guys, you guys are going to be okay. You guys are going to be safe. They listened to you. You didn't listen to them. I'm sorry for being passionate, but you know what? Those guys' lives are on the line, and that means something to me. They're here to do a job.
Okay, Mr. Marks.
You know what? I sit here tonight disturbed because not only do we have a chief that's actively pursuing and looking for active employment in other districts, actively looking. His name's been in the paper in Texas. We know he's applied in Connecticut. I think he even did it Dudley. I'm not 100% on Dudley, but I know he's applied other areas in Mass, right? So we have a chief that's not active, that's obviously is not looking to stay here, who recently just got his bar exam. But I just find out, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, that you are one of the 3 finalists in Spencer.
That's correct.
So now we have a TA that is going to make a recommendation on behalf of the firefighters of Sturbridge, who doesn't even have a vested interest in Sturbridge.
Can I interrupt you, please? Mr. Marks? That has nothing to do.
It has
with
everything to do with it, Mary, and you know that.
Mr. Marks, may I ask you a question?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Now,
I'm sorry, Mary.
the candidate was presented well before Spencer was looking for a TA, okay? Now,
Listen, the point is that you're not, I don't mean to cut you off, but the point is that you're not getting and you're not understanding, and the point that I've tried to make.
Mr. Marks, I was speaking. We understand there is a problem with communications, and it came up in executive session and afterwards, that half of these complaints we never heard about. They weren't brought to the town administrator in a timely manner either,
Madam
where
Chair.
things could have been done. All of a sudden, things just blew up.
Madam Chair.
And we get this letter, and we did have that special executive session with you, and then you go and put just about everything on Facebook that was expressed in
Madam Chair,
executive
if I may.
session. Wait a minute, Jamie.
Okay.
We do know there's a problem, and we will definitely be working on the communication problem and straighten out all the upsetness in everybody's mind.
Well, if I
Okay,
may.
Jamie?
Yeah, Mr. Marks, how many votes of no confidence have you been part of?
A couple.
okay, because I have two. And I know you have your attorneys here tonight, and I appreciate our friends from Eden and Rafferty. But here's where I look at this, and it's a little easier for me because I was new to the board, right? You guys, whenever you do a vote no confidence, in my experience, you have to have an ask and have to actually be able to execute an outcome. And what I saw, how this all rolled out from my perspective, now, my perspective might be wrong, my perspective might be flawed, whatever, is the deputy chief gets removed from the bargaining unit. Presumably there's other tensions going on for a long time in the department. And the ball kept kind of moving after that with sir. Not because I think you were doing anything untoward, but first it's more rational conversation. We shouldn't keep it as a captain. Then you're frustrated. And then the last meeting, I really didn't appreciate some of the language. Perhaps it wasn't, not by you, but there's a little bit of a tacit threat to some of it, perhaps not intentional, that around health and safety in the community that I took exception with. Accurate, inaccurate, I don't know. But it's a lot of emotion, and I don't, and we're in the circumstance we're in, and this isn't changing, it's a 5-0 vote. So, and I understand that you need to vent, I vented tonight, I get it. But there has to be a practical step from here. And that's the part of that I, because we put this off a few times in hopes of that. And then it kind of came into more of an action or a performance or a protest or whatever you want to call it. And I appreciate that. No, I don't mean it in a derogatory way. I mean it's part of this all. And so that's the part I'd ask all of you. It's like, what are we doing with this next? Where does this go? I mean, we're here together. I'm not going anywhere. I'm in this town for the rest of my life. So,
So Selectman Goodwin, the problem.
I'm not trying to give you a
No, so the problem becomes is, right, when we had those initial meetings and we reached out about the deputy chief position, and we reached out about those positions being taken away from, which I always call the boots on the ground, right? Boots on the ground, the guys are going to be running into that building, saving a life, or doing what they got to do to make sure the fire gets put out, right? So when we originally talked about that, we had issues with that, right? Because we were having issues with the chief then. But we didn't have a no confidence vote at that point, right? We didn't have a no confidence vote because, we were trying to figure out if there was a way to fix it, right? The chief wasn't interested in fixing it, and that was our problem, right? No matter what we did and conversations that were had, the chief didn't fix it. The chief didn't. Even after our last meeting here, when we said we'd have a meeting here after like 3 months, right? And we'd sit down, the chief met with the members, right? The chief met with the members. And after that, nothing got accomplished, right? He let them vent, and then his suggestion was, you tell me how we're going to fix it. That's not what we want. We want a chief to stand up, tell the men and women how we're going to fix it, these are our concerns, and be a chief and fix the issues. But just, and then, so when we were originally talking about maybe we should look at a captain's position or whatnot, because our feeling at that time was, because of the issues we're having with the chief, we weren't going to have that ability with the deputy chief because we were hearing what his job was going to be. And we looked at it and said, all right, he lives a little farther away than the current chief. Still within the town, the guidelines that you guys require, but he lives a little farther away. He's going to be in charge of all fire inspections. That alone is a job in itself. That alone is almost a full-time gig, especially as you get towards the end of the season. Okay, so, you're going to have a very busy, fire officer taken away from boots on the ground because this one can't do the commercial end of it. And if I'm wrong, Mr. TA, you please correct me on that. But this deputy chief, from what my understanding is, can do house alarms to make sure they're there, they're operating, they can close. And my understanding is he might be able to do some boiler inspections or tank inspections for household or something. But the nit and gritty, the commercial end of it, this gentleman doesn't have those qualifications yet and is in the process of trying to obtain those.
And as we discussed over and over again, even when we crafted the job description, which you saw and reviewed for the deputy chief, that person occupying that position has 1 year to get those qualifications. Just like other positions in the department, that don't have everything they need, but are given time as employees to get what they need.
But as a TA, and as you sit and said, one of the major focuses of this town
And it will be.
is to get a fire inspector ASAP. I can't tell you how many times I heard that, right? ASAP, we need a fire inspector now. This is the best way to go about it, a deputy chief. And what do we have? We have a deputy chief that can do a portion of the job, not the whole job. You want to know why we're so frustrated?
Is our town administrator correct that you review the job posting?
That's it. No, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That gave a year for this candidate that's selected to get the required certifications necessary to do commercial inspections. Did you review that?
I did review that.
Did you object to the year long? Because I know we just hired somebody, and I'm very excited, isn't a paramedic yet, right? So did you bring it to our TA's attention that you had an issue with the year?
I think the issue was, I don't think that specifically was brought up.
Well, no, when you reviewed it, though.
Yep, I reviewed it, but I don't think that was specifically brought up because at the time we were having concern with the whole thing. So I don't recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I sent an email, I'll look it up. I don't recall approving the job description, but I do remember having issues. If I did approve it,
No, I didn't say you approved it.
Please tell me, but I did not approve it or send an email out that I'm aware.
It would have been useful, when we're having this discussion in Citizens Forum, if we did have the chief present. I think it's.
Well, and I understand, the chief left, there was a car accident that happened down at the Cracker Barrel, so I'm gonna give the chief a little, slack, but that was before, he left before that accident, right? He was long gone before that accident happened. And that was one of our, look, there's so many issues and concerns here. I appreciate your time. I just think that.
Well, hold on, let me talk about the way forward. The
Okay.
board,
No, I want to hear from him. What's the way forward?
I don't, to be honest with you, I don't know. And this is the scary part, right? Because we have a no confidence vote.
We had a plan.
But wait a minute, but this is the problem.
We had a
But listen, this is the issue. I can agree or say, we'll have those discussions, right? And then it was an open forum when we said we'd have those discussions, right? So we can say we can have those discussions all we want. But if the men and women aren't comfortable, and I will repeat this again, the next day, the chief sat down with the department and said, where do we go? They vented. His solution was, you tell me how to do it. No, you're the chief. You are the chief, so you fix it.
No, hold on. I'm not going to, because you've already discussed what we did in executive session, so I'm not going to broach further into that, because that's really not appropriate. But we had a plan in place by motions that everybody was on the same page for.
Yep,
I
you left there.
don't know to date if those occurred.
No, we haven't had the round table. The chief has had the round table with them. We haven't had
But that's not what our.
We have a round table session coming up. We haven't had one yet. We have one scheduled for next week, I believe.
That was what was supposed to happen a while.
Unfortunately, everybody's schedule wasn't dictating it, right? So there were some training issues that took place where the two people I needed at that table were in training. It also happened for some.
I guess here's what I'm struggling with, right? I get it. I mean, I think a process that brings in the outside professionals is probably preferable, okay? I acknowledge that, I do. I like the way the chief of police did it. However, I guess what I'm struggling with is, let's say and I'm not saying the board is going to do this by any means, but let's say we had a motion to reconsider our confirmation, right? And we followed this process that other communities have used, okay? And the same applicants apply, and perhaps the firefighters in your choice is not the one that comes to the top. And let's just assume, for the sake of argument, that it's the same candidate that comes across and the same people apply. I really don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not getting the sense that it's only about process and that everybody would start clapping and embrace the candidate that was chosen if the right process was followed.
So
I guess I don't know the answer to that.
So I can give you that answer.
I mean, because There's no guarantee that whoever the firefighters think is the right candidate, and I actually don't know who that is, are they, what if he is the best choice, even under the process you wanted to choose?
So-
What would be the end result for these firefighters?
So
You're representing them.
Then they would accept it. The whole issue is,
Wait a minute, Mr. Marks, could I interrupt, please?
Sure.
This discussion is getting a little bit longer than our entire meeting. And like I said before, we realize there's problems.
And this is the problem, we get shut down, right? This is the problem, that we can't speak our mind and we can't be heard. I understand it's getting late and everybody else might have stuff to do. Well, I'm just gonna answer.
Mr.
So
Marks.
I'm gonna just answer your question, and then I'll call it a day, okay? The question is, they would accept that. You know why? Because there was a process in place, okay? A process that was in place by an independent consultant, an independent assessment group that had no ties to the chief, okay? And they would accept it at that point. If the assessment, the chiefs that would appoint that and said, Jonathan Miller is the best candidate, after going through the independent assessment, like I said, with no ties to our chief, absolutely they would accept it, right? That's all they're asking for. The problem is, you have a chief with a no confidence vote. I know I've said it 1,000 times. You have a chief who we believe, and we have some evidence to show that this is a friend of his. We have a process that the day after the select board.
See, we haven't had any of it. I mean,
Well-
you say you have evidence that it's a friend, but
Okay.
that's just.
So
Okay, Mr. Marks.
there's been things that have shown us that he's a friend. That's why we say believe. Okay.
I'm going to reject that. This gentleman has wanted to work for this town of Sturbridge before Chief Grasso got here. He was a candidate for chief when we hired John Grasso. So whether or not they're friendly, he has still expressed an interest to work for this town before I got here, before Chief Grasso got here. So
So an independent assessment would have fixed that. You said you cared about him. Show you care and do an independent assessment.
very tired of you yelling at me.
Mr. Marks,
And you know
being
you
a friend of
represent-
somebody
you know you
doesn't
represent
disqualify.
a union where collective bargaining can take place, because otherwise it is a management decision.
So so there's a thing called SOP. I don't know if you guys are aware what SOPs are. SOPs are policies that are put in place by the chief.
Standard of
Yeah,
operation.
okay?
Yes.
So those are put in place by the chief and followed, okay? So he didn't follow those. He didn't follow those for a current lieutenant promotion. He didn't follow those for a deputy chief promotion.
There is no
Now,
SOP
those are,
for
the
deputy
SOP has always been in place and followed for all.
I want
So-
to talk about
So,
that.
so wait a minute.
So
So
you know what
can I,
happened.
wait a minute. So wait a minute. Don't, let's Jeff, please. Jeff, please. We don't want to go there because I have a document that shows on the day we had that conversation that Chief Grasso modified, revised, and changed that document, that SOP. And miraculously, there was multiple ones on his computer. But I have a document that shows revised, modified, and changed. So, and
September 7th, the chief emailed you to say, okay, on the lieutenant's process, let's get together and make sure we have a process that we all agree with. He has yet to get a response from you.
we were going to wait. You were going to start the assessment for the, yes, you said on the phone.
Conversation, let me finish. You
Okay,
can see I'm
wait,
talking.
gentlemen.
Come on.
Okay,
Yep, go ahead.
Mr. Mark and Jeff, okay?
On September
I'm
7th.
putting an end to this.
Wait a minute,
Jeff?
let me finish this one.
I know exactly where I was. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, may we just ask to extend the conversation,
no,
and
you
then
know
everybody
what?
can go, and then, no, let's leave on a cooler note. Does everybody state their point, and then we'll stop, and we'll all go home. We'll have an adult beverage, and then we'll keep this conversation going, okay?
On September 7th, the chief emailed you asking for a meeting so we could go through the lieutenant's process. It's somewhere right after, maybe it's the 7th, maybe it's the 8th, but it's almost a month ago. I asked the chief to reach out to Mr. Bono to kind of shake that loose so we could get this lieutenant's process figured out, so everybody's on the same page, everybody understands how it's going to take place, and we've not heard from you. We've not heard from anybody. And let's just be clear on this. When we did go through an initial lieutenant's process, It was an independent assessment. It wasn't the full assessment that's provided for in a version of the SOPs, but it was a full outside assessment by 3 chiefs not connected to the department, and the membership rejected. I understand, but it was an outside assessment, and the person selected was challenged. Okay, so let me finish. So you told me you had issues with it. I said, fine. Let's back it up, and let's create a process, or let's make sure we all are on board with a process that gets the best possible candidate in a process we can't challenge. That was a month ago.
So,
And you didn't respond to that?
no, they were supposed to get, I like how, only half the story and how I don't respond, because the last conversation that was had was we're going to discuss it at a round table, and they were going to put together the process. Not only did they not follow the SOP, they didn't follow the contract. The Teamsters Local 170 contract, okay, which that states a little less than the SOP, but it still states more, and they didn't even follow that. So the last time we talked and we tried to figure out how we were going to resolve this, I was in Newburyport, pulled over to McDonald's parking lot with my laptop open, trying to figure out how we were going to resolve this, and the last conversations that came out of Mr. Bridges' mouth was he was going to get the process going for the exam. It's a multi-question. It takes multiple months to have, which I don't know where we are with that process, and then we move forward. The discussion for the discussion that we were going to have was going to happen at the round table. That was when that discussion was going to happen. Okay, so there's multiple things here. He's throwing dirt my way, I'm throwing dirt his way, but at the end of the day, we have a no confidence vote, and we're asking how we're going to move forward. I do not know how you move forward from a no confidence vote when you have a chief that we don't have faith in to do his job. He selected somebody who we believe to be his friend. We have a chief that's looking for another job in another town, and we have the same with the TA. But we're supposed to have this roundtable discussion on how to move forward when they don't have the faith in the process, and we can't even follow a simple protocol for assessment.
You were representing them, and you assured us that you were going to enter into those roundtable discussions.
When we have one set up for next week. We have one set up.
After 3 weeks of trying to get a date.
Okay. So,
Unfortunately, I have other assignments, right? So these guys are pretty important to me, and I understand.
You don't respond
I
to me.
I honestly
3
think
weeks.
at this point we need a mediator to come in. That would be my suggestion. I guess I'm going to come out and say, I'm going to make a motion that we engage a mediator to come in and discuss with management and the union the various issues that you are having.
Sure.
And
I'll second that, but I think the specifics of it, we might want to revisit because I don't know if I have my head around all of it.
Sure.
But yeah, I will second the motion generally.
I would welcome that.
So we can get together. I don't know if we have to do that in a separate meeting. If we
well,
do it.
hold on. I made a motion, so I kind of wanted.
Okay, sorry.
A
So
motion
it's
for him.
discussion.
Wait, we got a motion on the floor.
And Jamie seconded. Any more discussion?
So we'd be voting.
I'm surprised, Mary. I'm surprised that you brought that up, because I would think, being adults, having the best interest of the employee in the town.
I'm sorry. You know what? Our chair's trying to speak. I do want to hear her. I mean, she's not here. I just find it disrespectful. Go ahead, Mary. I can't hear you.
I would expect that the town administrator and Mr. Marks and the police chief can get together. Make a point of getting
No,
together.
you know what, Mary? There are people who are trained in labor relations that, with all due respect, Jeff's super smart as a town administrator, and but once people take their various posturing, I do think that they have a special talent that others don't. It's actually a profession. So I do stand behind that a mediator could help in a way that they can't do it on their own, because we had that meeting at least a month ago, and I don't think any progress has been made. And I'm not pointing my finger at anybody. I'm just saying, at this point, and I'm not doing it, I don't mean to sound like this is, I mean, I'm not trying to be smug. I'm not really doing it as much for the firefighters as much as I'm doing it for the residents of Sturbridge, because, you know, they deserve better from the leaders, from us, and from the fire department. And again, you know, they do have a profession that they've got people's lives in their hands, they've got each other's lives in their hands, and I'm not going to be able to walk away tonight and, you know, feel very good about this whole meeting. So at a minimum, we need to bring a mediator in to address some of these concerns. And, yeah, so, I don't know, we didn't vote yet, but.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and I think it's,
Well,
we're all.
Mary, I do realize there are people trained who could come in and do this. However, all along, our grievance process has not been followed.
I think,
Firefighter grievances, complaints should have gone to Jeff. Jeff should have taken care of them, if he got them. He didn't get them. All of a sudden, when we got it, is when Jeff got it. We got that long
Jim, you
list.
sat there and said you didn't bring these up to the town administrator. You told the board that.
I didn't?
Yeah, you did.
So the March, I think I'm just throwing a date out there because I'm not, it's like the second week or first week in March that we had a Zoom meeting, and I was in a parking lot on the Zoom meeting with all the firefighters and yourself, concerned about the deputy chief position that was never brought up then? It was that, did we or not? Let me ask this question.
If everybody keeps trying to win the argument
Yeah,
tonight,
I agree with you.
any progress.
I agree with you.
Let's say we have a motion on the floor, a mediator helps.
There's a motion on the floor. There's a second. Chase, do you have anything to add?
No, I agree with it. I think, you know what, getting some outside help for this is the right thing to do right now.
Jason's
Ian?
getting one for each other.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree, and I'm obviously new to this process. I'm not a professional fireman. I've subscribed to the process that we've been given along this, and I voted by that. So just want to say that publicly, that, you know, I support our firemen. I've gotten a bad vibe from you since the beginning, kind of how it was approached, and that the first we ever heard of it was just no confidence, and it came off wrong. So we have elected a fire chief, and I was kind of a duty to stand by him as well. So I just want to say that publicly.
Well, I apologize if I came out wrong in that, but yeah, I mean, like I said, you know.
I think a mediator and somebody trained in this is going to help everybody understand the process better and do better.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion. All in favor of the motion? 5-1, the audience doesn't vote.
I do want to add.
I don't usually make motions, but I make a motion to adjourn.
It's not up to me.
We haven't adjourned the citizens.
I just made a motion.
What's that? Did you
You said it after I said I wanted to get up, Mary, so.
But excuse me, Tricia, I hadn't recognized you.
Well, you know who I am. So could I be recognized, please, for 2 seconds? Just a quick one.
2 seconds, Trish.
Okay, we'll call it 3 seconds. I just want to say, I know Mary brought a couple things up, and just if I could speak kind of for everybody here, our hope was tonight that you would see all the red flags. We're here because we're very concerned about this department. Most of us are either married to, parents of, have been on the fire department. I know that isn't the case with you guys, but it hits us in our heart and soul about their safety. We were hoping that you would see those red flags and not vote for this deputy chief tonight. So we're still walking away very disappointed because we don't feel like you voted for the correct person and we weren't listened to. Moving forward, I guess we're stuck with him unless you make a motion to reconsider it. I would love to see them all try to work with you, but I have the feeling because of the way it was handled tonight and we were so ignored that it's probably not going to be pretty. And that's all we were trying to say to you was, please don't vote for that tonight, even though that's not the point of the no confidence vote. It was more the, would you just listen to us? Could we take a step back? And where do we go from here? And that just wasn't done, and that's unfortunate. I would love to see you take a vote to reconsider and then really hear them out. That's what I've said from day one. I know on Facebook I put stuff, other people have. Listen to them. I don't feel like you've been listening to them. Chase, it was like March or something that you and I spoke at the time, and I told you then, when it barely came up, that it was Jonathan Miller that was going to get this job. We all knew it. He's a buddy of his that hangs out there, and I didn't know who this guy was. I still don't know who he is. But I said to you at the time, I'm told it's going to be him, and he's getting this job for him. Is that how we do things in Sturbridge? I don't think so. So we're very disappointed that you kind of didn't get it and should have voted it down, and that's unfortunate, but now we have to move forward.
Hold on,
No.
hold on. But
Trish,
you know what?
can I,
Can I just answer for a second?
Mary?
There's a difference of opinion between you and our chief in terms of whether or not that person is a friend. So you kind of state it like it's a fact and we should just believe you. But we also have our chief, who is very qualified, okay? And he's telling us he wasn't hired because he's a friend. So we look at the resume and he is very qualified for this position. I don't know how the board, I'm just going to put this out there for the board, and do you think it's useful for the residents, not for the firefighters, but for the residents, to engage the mediator first before we make the confirmation? And I'm saying this not because I agree that he's not qualified and not because I agree that he's a friend, because I think the chief was being sincere, and I have spoken with him and I believe him. And I also believe our town administrator when he says that this person wanted the chief's position before Chief Grasso got it. So that doesn't say he was hired because he was a friend. He was already interested in working for the town of Sturbridge. So I'm putting it out there for the board to think about, because he didn't start yet, and I don't know if it would benefit our residents to have the mediator come in first.
Yes.
I'm not asking, I'm sorry, I'm just, to come in first, to come in first, and I don't know what we're going to gain at this point.
Mary, I feel, because at this point, we brought this guy in 3 times in a row. We just have to make a decision, and it might be the right decision, and you guys might think it's the wrong decision. There are, but you have to come up and recognize me.
I'm ready anytime.
I just want to hear what, he's really bright, so I want to hear what he has to say.
But it's, at this point, we can't.
Person to go before me.
What's that? Oh, sorry. I just think we have to cap this for now. We're going to engage a mediator. We've brought this gentleman in and told him he has the job. Yeah, and so at this point, we have to march forward. It's just, we can't keep resetting here. Anybody here, I'm pretty hard to knock as being anti-law enforcement or public safety. I have a family member who died in the line of duty. Not my individual family, grandfather, firefighter, but I represent all the injured EMTs in the city. I understand what you're coming from, but you have to see it from our perspective too. And this isn't easy. No, and you guys are. And you guys are throwing grenades. You're angry. You're mad. You're coming in, and you're. Well, I don't mean it in a
literal.
Like I don't mean it I don't mean it in a judgmental way. I know why you're frustrated. I get it. But conversely, you have to see it from the board's position, and at some point, we just have to have process moving forward. And I think that's kind of was your point, Ms. Barrasso. So we're creating process. Process comes obligations, and we all need to work on the relationship. And I suspect this is all a two-way street on some level anyways. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is, or maybe, and it might be. But then I have to be shown that I'm wrong. That's the part of it that's part of this. So that's my 2 cents.
And I agree. I honestly, Jamie, I understand that, because at this point, I guess what we were trying to do is hope that you would listen to them and to us prior to taking that vote, and I think that's unfortunate. And Mary, though, I am curious if that was part of it, that he was so clear that there was no connection. If there was proof of that, would that have changed your mind? In other words, if there was pictures of him with him and hanging out with him, would it have mattered? It's a question, Mary. It's a legitimate question.
I know, excuse me, but your 3 seconds are up. Well up.
Commenting when I find it very, very unfair when the chief isn't here to... He's never here. Okay, well, to give his input every time, you know, you say, if we have proof. I guess, you know, I don't... You say you have this, this, you know, gun, this flaming, whatever that expression is, flaming gun, I don't know whatever that is.
Smoking gun.
Thank you. I knew it was, thank you, that's not good.
I'm just saying, if there was a smoking gun.
He's
it's too
not
late.
here, and I can promise you that I would feel the exact same way if we had the chief here with the new deputy chief, and nobody else was here, and they had one accusation after another against our firefighters. I would not take well to that. And so I just feel like without him here, I can't comment anymore.
No, I know. And it's
think
too bad, because he was here, and, you know, he chose to leave, knowing that we were all here, which is kind of what happens. He knew we were here. Why should he leave? Yeah.
So just one thing real quick, and I'm gonna go. Just so you guys are aware, we did have a meeting last week with the TA, and it was just brought to my attention because I got so much going on that I forgot about it. There was a request for a mediator, and the TA said no to that. So I'm glad to see that he's on board to have a mediator now.
Mary, wasn't a question. Jim? There was no, I'm done. I'm done for the evening.
I was the attorney there,
But I can't see them.
You didn't ask for a mediator. You didn't ask for a mediator.
Attorney.
No, you wanted, no.
Everybody.
Let me clarify.
There's
You
somebody
didn't say
sitting
that.
in the chair asking to be noticed by the chair. We're going to keep an orderly
wish I was
process
there.
going.
That's what she said.
As a Sturbridge resident, I came here tonight. I was asked by a friend to come and participate in this meeting and hear what you guys all had to say and what was going on. And at the end of this meeting, I'm saying, what I'm doing right here, what this woman was doing here, what the other gentlemen were doing, they should have been heard before your vote, don't you think?
Well, I do. I mean,
Because they were not heard. The people of Sturbridge have not been heard. Now, if you don't reverse that vote, if I was one of these firefighters, I would be going to work defeated tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Now, if you decide to get that mediator, you can see how broken this is. It's beyond broken. It certainly needs a mediator. It needed a mediator a long time ago, from what I can tell. Please reconsider and listen to the people. We would like them to come and save our homes if they get burnt, and we'd like them to feel good about what they're doing when they come, whether it's the chief, the deputy, or these firefighters. But the only way to work it out is to get a professional mediator in here, and it has to be somebody who the chief agrees with and the firemen agree with, that they have trust and faith that it's going to be fair to all sides, and go. Start tomorrow. And the communication, communication is a problem, and that's when you bring in a mediator to see where does the communication problem begin and where does it end, and what do we got to call out of this place to get things back on track. That's what I have to say. As a concerned citizen.
I just want to say one thing in regards to what Mr. Rafferty just said. They did not discuss a mediator. Wait a minute, hold on, let me finish, because I've got, well, it's up to the chair. It's up to the chair.
No.
Wait a minute,
I haven't recognized anyone.
You sat next to me. You turned to me, faced me, and said, fire him, pointing to Chief Grasso, and then call in an assessment group to evaluate the entire department. The word mediator never came out of your mouth.
Well, we're not firing Chief Grasso.
Your words were fire him.
Can I finish now? I said,
all over people
I
now?
asked him, has he ever faced the situation where he had a vote of no confidence? And he said, no, because the guy who was voted no confidence left the next day.
Okay,
No, it wasn't,
excuse
no,
me.
I've never had a vote of no confidence. I've never had a vote of no confidence.
I recall,
Okay.
I said to him,
Jeff?
on Tuesday morning, this town is a good town. People aren't going to talk to each other.
Hey, excuse me, whoever's talking has not been recognized by the chair.
My name is Attorney Richard Rafferty. So then I said, push this back 6 weeks. Bring somebody in to do an assessment. is heard before this gets out of control. And I still mean it to.
I don't know.
You predicated that on firing Chief Rosso.
I use that as an example.
No, you didn't use an example. That was a directive from
It
you.
doesn't matter which one of you is right or wrong right now. It is not helping
Wait a
me
minute,
understand.
excuse me.
Attorney Rafferty
Does
is
someone have the
not helpful
gavel
to the
there,
board. I
Amy?
cannot imagine it's helpful to the community, and the same with you, Jeff. I'm
done.
All right,
yeah.
listen,
I understand.
listen,
Stop. We don't need to have an argument.
what is the effective starting date of the deputy chief? Did we
We
put
don't
it in
have
our
one yet.
motion?
We don't have one.
All right, I know you're not going to agree,
No, and I
but
didn't mean to interrupt you.
no one's going to, I don't expect the board to support this, but I'm just going to put it out there because we're very broken, and I'm going to make a motion, and I don't want everybody to applaud, because I'm not trying to get your applause. I'm truly not, because this wasn't brought, the firefighters did not bring the process to our attention until after somebody was selected. So you didn't have a problem with the process before. That's my biggest problem with what's being presented tonight. It's only after a selection was made, and he's clearly qualified. But I'm doing this for the residents. I'm going to make a motion that we reconsider our confirmation pending the hiring of a mediator. And I don't, I'm just going to put it out, and I'm saying, I believe the man's qualified, but we're setting him up to fail. That's the problem right now. We're setting that man up to fail.
Right.
And that's very unfortunate. So my motion is that I make a motion to reconsider our confirmation, pending the hiring of a mediator where this and other issues of the fire department can be addressed.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion?
I just.
I think,
Okay, sorry, Mary.
I think this has just gone too far. We took a vote, a process was done, we hired someone this evening, we should stick with that. We can bring in the mediator you want for all the other problems, but I am not going to change and vote for reconsideration.
I tend to agree with you, Mary. It's just that we just had the guy in here and gave him a job, and you want us, and we're gonna. It's just, it's at this point the decision's been made, and unfortunately we have to own our decision. Is my friending, and I
I'm
might.
sure if you explain to this gentleman that a few weeks away, once we hire a mediator,
Okay.
we'll be able to.
What's the board, though?
Really,
It's
this
No.
is one person you're talking about, you didn't have the job yet.
Wait a minute.
What's
The
in,
issue is, what confidence do these men and women have as a fire department knowing that he's gonna save their life if they need it? That's the question that you guys don't wanna answer.
You know what,
Look,
sir?
can we, could
The
we
chair's not here, I'm
please
sorry,
stop?
the vice chair, I'm just gonna, you're not here, Mary. It's really,
Stop
it's
the
really,
back
it's
and
really
forth
too loud,
discussion.
and we can't lose our temper, because I'm sure a lot of us want to.
we need a vote on that, because
Do we have a second?
we have a second, Ian seconded.
I'd like to talk here for a little bit. What are the timetables for this? Because I am struggling with telling a man that he has a job and then taking it away from him. But I do agree that the communication breakdown on both sides has been horrendous, and it's been on both sides. It has not been on one. I am struggling with taking it away from that man, but there are some major problems on the table here right now that I feel a third-party mediator, but I need to know the timeline.
He's
like-
not given a date yet to resign from his current position.
May I say one thing?
He's still employed.
I just had one more. I seconded the motion because we're bringing somebody in to be a second in command that obviously doesn't have the backing of the force he's going to command. And that's obviously a wrong decision. And that's why I seconded it. So.
Well, okay, on that point, he will earn it. They should respect the choice that the fire chief made, that the town administrator made, and our vote. Chase, I see the struggle. We can still bring the gentleman in, he can work, we can bring the mediator in for the other problems, and that will
What is the,
take care of
I don't
that.
think anybody's disputing the mediator piece.
We already voted on that, that was
That's-
unanimous.
That's a whole other conversation. We're talking about Mr. Miller's appointment. We have a second in motion. I'm inclined against it, although I do understand the point. It's, where are you at with, so I think we're at.
Okay.
I'm.
We had
You're
a,
responsible to the people of the town. Make your decision.
Ma'am, we're not having it go back and forth. We have a motion. We have a second.
And it isn't.
We've had
You're worried
discussion.
about being responsible to that gentleman. Your first response, I think, is to the entire town.
I think.
Excuse me,
We should vote.
Mary, can you hear me?
I'm sorry, Mary?
I didn't know if you could hear me because I said we're not having any more back and forth discussion. We have a motion, we have a second, we had discussion. All those in favor of Mary's motion to reconsider? All those opposed? I'm opposed.
Make a
Four
motion.
and one.
I
Make
just
a
want to
motion.
have a little bit of conversation based on that. Some guy just lost his job tonight, and you're technically in a union.
Yeah.
You're celebrating that.
No, they're not.
I voted in favor of it to clap it within the point. No, it was noted. It was noted.
Thank you. If that was a clause of thank you.
He may be
Then
the,
I take it back. I lost
he may be the,
These people are celebrating democracy works, and they.
Okay, we need another motion then.
hold on. And if, God bless him, if he reapplies for this position, and he is the most qualified, under whatever the mediator comes up with in terms of process, that's it.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Wait a minute, we need a motion on the reconsideration.
I feel like terrible, awful.
That's,
We gotta call him now.
that's why, like, I didn't feel good about that. We can't let that
Wait a minute.
be like, well, we already.
Mary,
Can we
But I
return?
mean,
Wait a minute, we
I
got to
feel so
adjourn the
bad
meeting.
for him.
I know. No, excuse me.
Me neither. But I mean, we're
We need a
setting the
motion
man
to
up.
adjourn.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to
Mary.
adjourn.
Seconded.
No, Ian.
Sorry, Mary. We can't hear you.
We took a motion to reconsider.
Oh, wait, that's right.
That motion passed. We now need to take a motion to not hire him.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because we
Well,
hired him, we have to take it back.
Yeah, you opened up the issue again, now you've got to determine the issue.
All right, so,
So make the motion to rescind the nomination.
yeah, so we made a motion to reconsider. It'd be better to do it with him present.
He's watching. The chief is watching.
The chief is watching. So I am going to make the motion. I am very torn. I'm going to make the motion because I think we're setting this man up for failure. And at this point, if he really wants this position and he's up for the challenge, he will apply again with the mediator overseeing the process. And I hope he does, because I feel he's qualified. But I'm not going to set the man up to fail, and I'm not going to do that to our residents. Our chief has assured us he has people backed up, and I believe him in the event that anybody chooses to resign. And so, but I still don't think that's in the residents' best interest to have all new people coming on board. So I want to apologize to Mr. Miller for voting for your confirmation and now not voting for it. But I should have recommended a mediator before. It's not because I don't feel you're qualified, but you're being set up to fail. And it's just, as Ian said, you can't be second in command where we already have problems with our chief. But the chief has made a very good faith effort with the firefighters. I believe that. And I think it's time for the firefighters to come around a little bit as well. So I'm going to say that for the record. But I'm going to make a motion that we withdraw our confirmation at this time, pending the hiring of a mediator to oversee the process with our chief, with our town administrator, and with a union representative.
I'll second Mary's motion.
Okay, any discussion?
I'm very torn, but if the majority of the board's there, I'll vote with the majority.
Well, I'm not torn at all. I'm not torn at all. I don't, is that my echo?
We
can hear you, Mary.
We can hear
You sound fine on our end.
Oh, I'm not torn at all. We went through the process of trying to hire a deputy chief. We have a well-qualified person. The board voted unanimously for him. This idea about him being a friend of the present chief, friendship doesn't qualify you nor disqualify you from a position. I am not voting for this motion at all. What we've dragged the chief through, what we've dragged Mr. Miller through is unconscionable. I am sticking with my affirmative vote. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion? 4, all opposed, 1. Okay, I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
That's the
All in
fastest second
favor?
I've ever had, Mary.